That's what Steve Coleman said. What about you, George? What do you think our chances are?
I think it's good. I think what we need, that's 939 where we're at. We need, 640? Is that right? My math
that's
right?
about right.
We need 640. We can totally do that.
That's the 1,500.
That's, okay, well, I can't add, so we need, I'm not very good at math. So,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, so it's, we need 2006 to get to 1,000, I think is what we need, right? So, we should be good. We're almost there. Yeah, if we do 60 signups every 20 seconds, we should be good to go.
Yeah.
That's doable, right? That's totally doable.
Do it.
Oh, wait, we're already behind. Damn.
We were originally thinking we would just keep going until we got to 5,000.
I think so.
And just however long that takes.
However long. We were not going to leave.
That's why I brought my banana in case I need to eat after 4
yes.
hours.
The kids will be done with
that little
school.
thing.
They'll graduated. They'll have jobs. We'll just keep broadcasting. Here we are, year
You didn't see
7.
Bob's banana.
Year 7.
That's somehow appropriate to you, Bob. I don't know why.
My hippocampus is that.
The campus? That's not. I don't think that was the anatomical part I was thinking of.
Banana eater.
Also, we'll be talking to you about the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe book. We have a book coming out.
Yay!
We do that.
Books.
So it's
They
going to
still
be.
make books? That's
They
awesome.
still make books.
do.
I know. Go for who knew?
Nice little Gutenberg printing press, and off we go.
It'll be available in hardcover and ebook October 2nd.
Yes.
October 2nd.
But it's available for pre-sale.
It's available for pre-sale at Amazon and elsewhere. So you can pre-order it now. So we also are hoping to get as many pre-orders as we want. So the way the book industry works is that the pre-sales now, that's everything. That's the show, right? So a lot of the promotions, like how many books the bookstores buy, how much resources will be put into promoting the book, all depends on how well the pre-sales are doing. And all of the pre-sales, the pre-orders count towards the first week of sales. So in terms of getting on bestseller lists, the pre-orders are the way to go.
Yeah.
So if you think you might want to buy a copy or 10 of the book, give it out to your friends or whatever. People
Christmas
who need
presents.
It. Christmas presents, birthday presents,
Halloween presents.
stocking stuffers,
Halloween presents.
yeah. Then we would appreciate it if you pre-order it, because that will help us get the widest distribution for the book as possible. So at some point tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about the process of writing the book and previewing a little bit of what's in there. We don't have a final cover yet, so that will be a future event, which we will coordinate with the publisher. We'll do an unveiling of the final book cover. But we're still working on that, tweaking some details.
We all don't agree.
We all don't agree. I mean, it's something that subjective, and artistic,
Yeah.
and none of us really know what we're talking about, So we all have different opinions about the book, and of course, our publisher has different opinions still.
I'll quote Kara. Last night, Kara said, "What happened to the red? I love the red."
And we were like, we hate the red. The red is gone.
Yeah.
The red is not
Oh,
happening.
I love the red. The red was great, guys. Why would you get rid of the red?
Out.
It's funny
It'll
though,
be great,
because your artistic sensibilities need to go out the window to a certain extent because this is a marketing game. So
Yeah.
You've got to think what's not just awesome but also effective. So
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah, I guess we should listen to the marketing guys. But I think actually at the end of the day, nobody got exactly what they wanted, but it looks great. I think we're going to have a good book cover. Once we nail down a couple of little details, it'll be good to go. So
Sounds like compromise to me.
so keep tuned to that.
It's like band names. Whenever you pick a band name for a band, like you pick the one that you hate the least.
Yeah.
Because you never agree on it. So it's always like, oh, I love this, I hate it, I hate it. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do
settle
that
on the one everyone hates
you
the
settle,
least.
Yeah, you settle on the one.
Although-
What was the worst band name you ever played under?
George Hrab, I think, was probably.
That's terrible.
Hard to spell, hard to
R-A-B-H-R?
pronounce.
Like, who would put those?
Right.
What? Why would
Geologic
you even
that,
decide to
you
do?
know.
My first band was called Syzygy. I thought that was awesome.
Ooh, I like it.
S-Y-Z-Y-G-Y, right? The best hangman word of all time, right?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be called Social Study, and I somehow convinced everyone in the band, no, it should be called Syzygy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so that was
awesome.
that was like the coolest.
Reminds me of Leonard
Yeah,
Skinner.
but George, it's a terrible band name. Like nobody
yeah.
knows how to spell it.
Of course, yeah, but who cares? It doesn't matter because there's like 3 Y's in it, so that's all that matters. You know? And plus, you're like, you're 16, and that's so punk. There's 3 Y's. There's no vowels really in our name.
Yeah.
What?
Totally fine if nobody can find our album.
Yeah, whatever. Keep playing your Bon Jovi songs.
Down
That's
with the
fine.
establishment, man.
Yeah.
Although I remember when we were trying to decide the name of the podcast, we really were obsessing about it for a while. Emails going back and forth. And then when Perry sent that famous email where he had a list of like 7 or 8 names and Skeptic's Guide to the Universe was in there, we're all like, yeah, that's...
What else was in the running?
Who
Do you remember?
Oh
remembers?
gosh, do we still
Well,
have
the
that email?
Skeptical Rogues was in the running, and then we
Okay.
took that as our personal name,
Yeah.
right? And then, God, what else was in the running? I forget.
We have the email. We have that
still
email.
have the
it was
email?
a bunch of terrible names.
Yeah.
It was the other thing other things that were in the running.
Is it like the Steven Novella show with the other guys?
No, that would have been a good one though.
Skeptication.
Yeah, then we tried to come up with a bunch of
Skeptastic.
Okay.
whatever. all-
Skeptorama.
Skeptapalooza.
Skeptic.
We always, whenever we have to name anything, it's always torture.
Yeah.
Like we have our new science fiction review show, and which ended up being the name is Alpha Quadrant 6, which I actually like. The other thing is once you come up with a name, it grows on you, and then it feels right.
It
Like
doesn't
Alpha
matter.
Quadrant 6 is an awesome name.
Yeah.
But man, we went
That was
through
terrible, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
And then-
Well, and we
terrible-
had that whole conversation about the levels on the Patreon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So our,
And then Jay
our
just
old
did what he
membership-
wanted to do.
Our old membership was
That's what he
easy,
told me about you.
right? The old membership, it was a lot of fun because we had 20 different levels.
Yeah.
And we just threw out every cool idea, like Guild Navigator, Damn Dirty
Time
Ape.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with this one, we only have 5
5
levels.
levels.
Do you want to go through them or do you want to save that for later?
Yeah, we can go through them since we're talking about it. So there are 5 different patron levels. The basic level is $5 a month. We're just doing monthly, not per episode or whatever. So $5 a month is the basic level.
That's Cyborg.
That's Cyborg. So each level is like a transhumanist kind of upgrade, right? So at first you're upgraded to a Cyborg, and there you get access to the Discord server. You get access to some behind the scenes pre-show
Explain this
banter.
Discord server, because I saw what is
Discord
that?
server is awesome.
It's
I'm
awesome.
gonna log in right now.
So what is it? Yeah, explain.
It's like a chat room, and you can also share content on there.
Okay.
And
It's a collection of different chat
yeah.
rooms, right? So you can go into the one that's general, you can go into the one that's
Image
topic
sharing?
specific.
I like the image
And then
sharing
there's
one.
also like live chat, like audio chat
Okay.
rooms that you can get into as well. But everyone is just chatting like crazy on there all the
And
time.
that's exclusive. That's you have to be a member to
Yes,
be.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's at our first level.
Did you name it Discord?
No.
That's
Discord
it's a general.
it's
It's a
a
generic
It's
app.
third party.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Third party app.
Discord has been it's really big for gaming. Yeah, and it's
So these
starting
are
to leak out
all
into
this is
other-
all functionality on Patreon. So Patreon has a bunch of plug-in apps that give you
great.
things you can do.
Yeah.
Like earlier today, we did was that our first one? We did the Lens, which is like 30-minute,
30 seconds.
30-second videos. Like you're supposed to here we are getting ready for the show. It's going on. You know what I mean? Like 30 seconds
Yeah.
of behind the scenes
Like
kind
an
of stuff.
Instagram.
Yeah,
sort of.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Instagram video.
It lasts 24 hours, yeah.
Yeah, and then it will stay up on 24 hours. So that's there too. What else do they get at the Cyborg level?
Discount to Nexus.
Discount to Nexus. Discount to our swag store, which we're going to transition actually. So the new one will be up soon. And then at the
Can you show the image? I love the images that Jay came up with.
Of the Patreon page?
yeah, sure. So then
Guys, everyone in the Discord server says hi.
oh, that's great.
Hey, everyone in the Discord server.
Hey.
And we will be taking
log on
questions
right
from the
now.
Discord server and elsewhere later today in the show. So here we go. So there's the
There it is.
your Cyborg. There's the Cyborg level. We're actually having some custom art made, but that's what we have for now. So you got the pre-show banter, access to the premium Lens behind the scenes video that we just talked about, patron-only content. So we'll put some posts up that are patron-only, SGU patron community posts, Discord server, Nexus, and then the swag store when we get that back up. And then at the biopunk, so biopunk is basically a term we came up with for your genetic modification, basically.
It's fairly common. We didn't
Yeah.
coin it, but it was very apropos.
All right, okay. And then, so there you get, that's where you get the premium content. That's $8 a month. You get premium content plus ad-free versions of the show.
Oh, Aaron's on.
And you get to look at, so you get to view the monthly Q&A live stream. So a new thing that we're going to do is every month we're going to have a live stream Q&A session. And at the premium level, you get to participate in that, including voting on which questions we answer. And then up one from that is the nanomorph level.
That's my favorite, Jay. You and I rock that one. Nanomorph.
That guy is being taken over by nanomachines and upgraded.
It's a symbiotic
It's
relationship.
a painful
symbiotic.
thing. It's like becoming a vampire. Like it's painful when it's happening.
Sure, it's worth
What's
it.
wrong with
Yeah,
it?
Bob's totally.
Like any
It's
good change
totally
in life
worth it.
Right.
involves a certain amount of pain.
So there you get to
Hey,
ask the
extend your
questions on the Q&A session, the live stream, and you get access to a basically private Discord chat room that exists only at that level and higher.
Wait, am I in that room?
Maybe.
We will be.
Have you paid the money?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I might not, Kara, I might not have given you access to that room yet.
Thanks a lot, Jay.
Let's go. Ching
Thank
ching.
you.
Come on.
And
Yeah,
then-
no, but at that $20
more
level,
years,
we're
Kara,
going to
you'll
go
earn
in
it.
once a month.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there.
No, we're going to do audio chat.
Yeah.
Once a month with the.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with
Well,
that.
that'll be
Right.
fun.
Oh, yeah.
Then at the, this is the $100 level, is the metacog, which is the term we came up for. Basically, you've uploaded your consciousness to the cloud.
Which is a
Yeah.
good step.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So then you get you get a personal shout out on the SGU, invitation to special private SGU events, and once the book comes out, you get a signed copy of the book. We will mail you one. And then the ultimate level, this was the most contentious name, and
Yes.
Jay basically got his way. Luxotic, which is basically you're a trans-dimensional being of light and energy. At that point, you've
Boring.
Light and energy?
yeah.
Light and energy?
Shut up.
It's the word lux and exotic combined.
Yeah, I got it.
Actually, Ian slow down this one.
I thought
Terrible.
it was lux and neurotic.
Actually, yeah.
All right, I like it better.
Why are those lights on?
Yeah.
Why are those lights on?
And at that
Right.
level,
Why are they so bright?
you get to be a guest rogue on the show
What?
after 6 months of membership.
Wow.
Yep. Guest row.
I better start paying up.
And we're going to have, once the artwork is all worked out, we'll have T-shirts for each level, and
Yeah.
we'll send you the
That's gonna
T-shirt
be cool. I'm
for
looking
the
forward to that.
Luxotic level, yeah.
Separate
Well,
T-shirts?
Steve, it says it's sold out already, the Luxotic level.
Sold out. What does that even mean?
Sell out?
It does. So
Yeah,
we'll
we-
probably
well, we have a limit-
So
we have-
there's only a certain number of people. We need to fix that.
There's a limit on the number of guest rogue slots we can hand out. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might expand that number, but we want to, get a few people on the show first.
Yeah.
right.
Rotate them around.
Yeah, rotating around. Okay, so there we are, 939
We're still there.
pages.
Can you refresh? And has anyone signed up?
refresh.
Has anyone signed up?
We're 942.
Let's look at the big board.
Big board. Tally.
944.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like a Porsche.
A big board.
Love it.
We're at 944, Jay.
That's great.
right.
But we know you can dig a little deeper, folks.
That's right.
Guys, we got a hello from
Thanks,
the
Josh.
Canary
Thank you.
Islands.
Ooh, nice. Anyone listening to us in Antarctica? Just let us know.
We got there's some people here from Tokyo right now, people from all over the place. But do remember that these levels are the levels that unlock the things that you want that are in the list.
Yeah.
But you can support the show at any level.
At any level,
You only
yeah.
have $1 to give a month. Give $1 a month.
yeah,
You're
whatever.
still
50
really
cents.
supporting the show and helping us do all of these things, helping us maintain the studio, helping us eventually hit the different goals that we have
Right.
listed there.
By the way, this studio was a rainforest just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it on the show, but this took us a lot of work and a lot of time to get to the point where we could actually have a live streaming event here again. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot. I mean, and like equipment just keeps shitting the bed on us. Like just today we discovered 3 new things that aren't working.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why when the adjuster came down here, he's like, "Oh, all this stuff is crap. It's crap. It's like,
It's
trash.
So,
it.
oh yeah, it just can't get wet. You can't get this sensitive electronic equipment wet. Like, yeah, we know.
So we could say shit? We could say shit?
There's a limit. We have a budget and we just spent it, so no.
Bob's like,
Shoot.
so Steve called me. That was the night. Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm sitting around the dinner table, And I get a phone call from Steve, and Steve, like I can hear it in his voice. If you hear something in Steve's voice, it's serious, because Steve, he's a fish. There's not much motion going on there. It's a joke. But anyway, he goes, Jay, and I'm like, oh shit!
Now George,
Here it comes.
One word you knew, like
And he
one word.
goes, so the washing machine, the line broke. And I'm literally like, I can hear it. I could just hear it. It's coming. It's 6 feet away. It's 5 feet away. So the water, it's through the kitchen.
And then Jay asked me, and where did the water go?
Yeah.
So I said, where does water always go?
let's
Down
Right.
to the
Most
lowest
expensive
level.
piece of
To the,
equipment.
the most expensive, least,
Kind of like other things that flow downhill.
And then the next thing I said was, how bad is it? And he goes, it's a rainforest. Oh my God.
well, that was your daughter's description of it. And
That was autumn
Very
corn.
apropos.
Yeah.
So we all came over. We all jump in a clown car. We come out over here.
But then but before that we played a little bit of the telephone game, because then you called Liz and I hear Liz on the phone with you, and I hear the basement's trashed. What was the word?
Total.
Total. So of course my mind goes to like the definition of total, that I'm thinking the set's gone, my phaser rifle's gone,
Yep.
the lights are gone,
cares
the
about
bat
Phaser
I should have said
Second
that
thing you
first.
said.
That was my phaser rifle.
But then when I came down here, it was wet. But it wasn't quite total, but it was nasty. But luckily, my imagination was worse.
Yeah.
Because
It took an amazing amount of work, man.
Oh yeah.
Days. But we're back, and we're dry, and there's no mold or anything because they had the evaporators in here.
No, it doesn't even
Yeah.
smell
Yeah.
like it's been wet. It smells good. Nice.
We got rid of the moisture
I can't
very,
even smell
very
the cat
quickly.
pee.
It was cool.
Yeah,
one of the evaporators that they brought in could speak Bocce. Moisture evaporators.
Nice one, Jay. I didn't even see that one coming.
If I make George laugh, I know I did something.
Yeah, because George is a tough nut. Unlike my wife, who laughs at.
And yeah.
No, that's not true because she laughs at everything I say.
You want to feel good, just like throw some dumb jokes at Joss, and she will laugh, and you'll feel good.
You can hear her laughing in the
Yeah, I
back.
know.
Oh yeah. My favorite Josh laugh is the. Way in the back of the room. Right, Bob?
You can say yes. You hear it in the audience.
God.
That's right.
All right, let's pepper in a news item.
Ooh.
Okay.
Red Pepper Restaurant?
Kara, do you want to start with the language one?
Sure, we'll start with the language one. It's a fun one.
Yeah, it's very fun.
So have you guys heard of Proto-Indo-European?
Yes.
I've not heard.
You all look stumped.
I've heard
Except
of
Steve,
European.
who always reads all of our news articles too and knows them better than we do. So Steve, you never get to answer the question when I say, "Do you guys know about?" Because you're like, "Yeah."
I approved
You've been
your
up since
news
4
item,
a.m.
and I read your news item. Yes.
So
And I didn't either.
Proto-Indo-European is right now the most widely accepted sort of explanation for early language that eventually leads to what we speak, which is English, but also to a lot of other common languages that are spoken today. Spanish, Hindi, Russian, Persian. Steve, you were just showing that that chart there, leading to everything, Greek, Armenian, Albanian, Slavic, Germanic, the Romance languages, Celtic, all kind of go back in time to this Proto-Indo-European. And the idea is that around 3,500 years BCE is when the Yamnaya, I really hope I'm pronouncing that. See, I
Yamnaya?
get stuck with these language things, and then I can't pronounce anything in the language
Language things.
episode. Yeah,
I
it's
hate
like
language
it's like
things.
the bane of. Okay, so how did you say it, Steve?
I was just repeating what you said. Yamnaya.
Yamnaya. Around that same time, these people who are from kind of the Ukrainian steppe, domesticated the horse.
Yes.
So it's really cool. There's this like a strong correlation between this era when the horse was domesticated and when this sort of genetic replacement took place throughout a lot of Europe. the estimate is that 75% of the existing gene pool in Europe at the time was replaced with these genes from this Ukrainian peoples, and that ultimately their language became the root of the sort of quote unquote evolution. I'm using that in a literary sense. The evolution of most of the languages that we speak today. And there was a study done recently. Actually, it was a few years ago, but there's always, this is the fun thing about science that I think we mention sometimes in the show, but we don't always touch on, which is that almost everything that we report on, if it's been published in a peer-reviewed journal, is already like over a year old.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get research published and to go through the reviewers. And it depends on, what field you're working in. It depends on how medically important it might be. But this was kind of happening around 2015 is when a lot of this data first came about. But this new data seems to really support and strengthen this hypothesis that these early Ukrainian peoples were really the source of both horse domestication and of this massive sort of takeover of Europe and Asia. And that's why that root language really did spread through. And then there's just a lot of argument within the literature now about how did that takeover happen? Was it militaristic? Was it peaceful? Did it happen because of some sort of disease? Did it happen because of power? And nobody can really agree, but it does seem that it's probably some combination of those things. What do you think, Steve? You think it was militaristic?
Well, they are the people who first domesticated the horse. Is that what you're saying? So that strongly suggests to me that they used those horses to spread their culture and probably take over people who got in their way.
I'm trying to picture those first guys like, look at that big cow. I think we should ride these things. What, you crazy? You want to get on the horse? I think we should get on the horse. We could, can you milk the horse? No, can't milk it. You just ride it. We just ride it.
You can milk a horse.
You could milk half the horse, but I don't think you want to. Let's just ride. You want to ride horses? What are you, cowboy now? You some kind of cow?
I love that accent.
Ancient people from the Ukrainian steppe had a modern Ukrainian accent.
Well, yeah. Do we need to discuss for purely comedic purposes? Yes.
No, but it's great.
I haven't worked on my Indo-Proto accent yet, so I got to work on that first.
So it's funny because it's one of those things that you may have never heard about, but the PIE, anytime that you look at etymology information, you'll see generally a PIE definition.
Yeah.
That's route that they're often going back to. But yeah, you're right, Steve. These people a long time ago who archaeological evidence really does suggest domesticated the horse. And this is called, by the way, the Kurgan hypothesis, that this idea that the genetic scales tipped and the linguistic dominance spread.
Yeah.
But
Kurgan?
how it
As in Highlander? Kurgan?
There can only be one?
Kurga.
Oh, okay. Must be a different guy.
That's right.
Kurgan.
Awesome.
But so how it happened is, purely speculation.
Yeah.
I think that there are groups that feel like there's not enough evidence to support that it was a violent kind of overtaking, that we would have more archaeological evidence in that direction. But there are a fair amount of people that say, a lot of times things like language, things like culture, they actually flow downstream, much like water from a washing machine.
Yeah. Take a random, analogy.
I see what you did there.
You mean that they destroy your dreams?
That too.
And your
But
studio?
you flow down from a position of influence and power.
Yeah.
So obviously the people in power are probably the people who had the most influence at the time. How do you maintain power, especially in an early time when there was no language?
Wait, they domesticated horses before they developed language?
Oh, they domesticated horses around the same time they domesticated language. Or I'm sorry, they domesticated language. Time they developed language, but there's a lot of good evidence to suggest that they were the first linguistically.
Wow.
You know how every culture likes to claim everything?
Yeah.
So like you watch My Big Fat Greek Wedding and the father's like, the Greek invented everything. We invented clothing. Ukrainian school was always like that. We were told like, we invented everything, like submarines and rockets and cars. And like, I remember being taught like, the first domestication of horses and like this
All right, we'll give you that one.
language. Yeah, and as a kid, I was just like, no, it's part of the BS. Like, oh no, all right, that's actually yeah, okay, cool.
But it totally makes sense. If you look at the history of human civilization, that's what happens when one culture has some kind of technological breakthrough that gives them an insuperable advantage. Their culture spreads as far as they can reach, and that there has always been an element of military domination there.
Or like didn't China? They had gunpowder.
Yeah.
Like gunpowder, they were by far the most advanced.
But I thought they
society
didn't
on the
use it
planet.
really.
And but they became insular though. They actually
They looked inward.
and then when they reemerged, like, oh boy, they could have really things could have gone very differently if they had
Roman
different
roads. I mean, the
political
fact
attitudes.
that you had these well-built roads that you could traverse relatively safely allowed for the spread of the Roman Empire. It wasn't so much the ideas;
sure.
it was just the fact that
Aqueducts.
Yeah.
All of these massive improvements. But think about this, guys.
Arch.
This was long before any of the technology that we're mentioning as examples. 3,500 years before the Common Era. This was so long ago that people were pretty insular. There had been major migrations like out of Africa at this point, obviously, but there's no written record of any of this. All of this is based on, limited archaeological, linguistic evidence going really far back. And the domestication of the horse, as you mentioned, Steve, created this bridge that went as far to India and Iran and then over to Europe. Like, the idea was that they spread that far, and that's why it is the Proto-Indo-European route. That's massive.
Yeah. But it's hard to overestimate the impact of domestication on human civilization. And there is also a hypothesis that if you look at just all the various parts of the world and the different people, the ones who are now post-industrial were the ones who had domesticatable animals in their region, right? Like, there are no domesticatable animals in Africa.
Right.
Through no fault of their own, just you can't domesticate the zebra like you can a horse. They don't have the same kind of. They're not ready to be domesticated. You need to have certain.
They have a lot of
traits in place.
donkeys there. Did they bring them all in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
I didn't know that. There are some
Europeans.
animals that are resistant to domestication.
Well, in order to be
Not camels in
domesticated.
North Africa.
Yeah. So in order to be domesticated, you need to have certain behavioral traits already in place. Like horses follow a herd stallion. And so all we really need to do is make ourselves the herd stallion. So they already have the genes and the hardwiring for I need to be submissive to a pack leader,
Like an
or
alpha
a herd leader,
dog.
an alpha dog, right, or horse or whatever. And then, but if you don't have that already, it's very difficult, to the point where it didn't happen. So it didn't happen in really like in the Americas or in Africa, et cetera. So but Europe had like the most diverse range of domesticatable animals.
How difficult is it? Is it impossible to domesticate a zebra?
Well, it just hasn't been done, so it's got to be hard.
apparently it's like,
I'm sure it's
if you
very
ever
hard.
see someone riding a zebra or something, it's a horse that's painted to look like for movies and stuff.
Yeah,
like you
they
can't
paint
ride a
a
zebra.
horse.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't even put it in.
Yeah,
a
I'm
pen
trying
or
to think of
anything,
where's that line? Is it impossible, or it just takes a supreme effort that nobody wants to do? And
Well, but also remember, domestication doesn't happen once. You don't break a horse and now the species is domesticated.
No,
it happens over
that's-
thousands of years.
Or it can happen over even dozens of
Yeah, a few
years.
generations probably.
If you're making a concerted effort to do it.
wait, so the first wild horse that was caught, you're saying that first one wasn't ridden?
It might have been broken, but it didn't make that horse domestic. The domestic horses are a breed. You know what I mean?
Well, then they would breed the ones that are the most
Exactly.
docile.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to breed the horse that's throwing every one of its
Right.
But
riders.
don't you have, why wouldn't you have to
Several
start from scratch?
generations before a species is domesticated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all right, well,
What's your confusion?
if you're picking the horses that are easy to break, wouldn't you have to continually, for at least for a while, continue to break their kids and their grandkids' horses?
sure,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
yes.
So
That's why I said thousands. It could just be, several decades. It depends on the species too.
Yeah.
It does seem to be the case that there were wide variations. Like, it seems like it took dogs a long time to be domesticated because the hypotheses are that it was like more of a passive domestication effort.
They domesticated themselves.
garbage eaters.
the breeding, the actual.
So they started hanging around the people who were throwing all the food on the floor, and we apparently like to have them around, and they bark and alert us to danger, and once they the relationship was even a little bit more cooperative, imagine how much defense. I mean, if you're living out in the middle, of the wilderness, having a pack of dogs to defend you, I mean, that could be a huge advantage.
But think about the time when the first wolves came up and were feeding on the garbage up until human beings trained a dog to retrieve an animal that they hunted. Like, we're talking thousands of years it took for that to happen. Whereas the fox experiments in Russia show that we can do it in a very short amount of time if we are approaching the problem scientifically, Bob. So within just a couple generations of those foxes, they were pretty tame and pretty domestic. And now they're like the sweetest puppies, like sweeter than the sweetest lap dog.
Yeah. Their tails wag.
And their floppy ears.
It's like in 20 years or something.
We've talked about that famous experiment where they
that's
bred
the Siberian foxes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. They also had a separate population that they bred to be vicious.
Yeah.
So they're super mean.
Yeah.
Oh, but I learned a couple, sorry to get off topic, but this is so interesting to me. I learned a couple really interesting things about that when I interviewed the author of a recent book about it. One is that they bred the line that was nice to humans, and then they bred the line that was mean to humans. And so now you have this super pet-like, adorable puppy breed, and you also have this super vicious, like it'll bite your face off breed. But when you put them together, they're not aggressive towards one another. So they're only bred for their reaction and relationship with humans.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating?
There's a fun party game. Guess what kind of fox is it?
Put your hand in the box. It's the fox box.
As a function of domestication. So you know how, like you were mentioning, George, that as you domesticate them, just for pure behavioral things, they're nice to people, we'll breed them, their ears would flop, they would develop spots, they would start to wag their tails, nothing that wild foxes do. Guess what else they learn to do?
Bark.
Follow your pointing, follow your finger.
Wow. Right.
Which is something foxes have never been able to do in the wild. So it seems to be linked to those exact same genes that are implicated in domestication, and dogs have that ability too.
Not just foxes. I mean, most animals have no idea what you're talking about when
So
you
look at your finger.
Even with dogs, wolves have been noted to do it spontaneously, wild wolves, which is why, that's like a big linkage between wolf to dog. But foxes have never been known to do that. So it's extra fascinating that by domesticating the fox, they've developed a dog-like trait.
Yeah, I think the researchers think that there's a suite of genes, that go along with domestication, and they are common in certain groups of animals. So the carnivores, will have this suite of genes, that will. If you domesticate them, they'll get all the features, the floppy ears and the whatever.
Yeah. And you're right that the omnivores, like, they're domesticated, but in a totally different way.
Right.
Like horses, camels, donkeys, like beasts of burden, quote unquote. They're not pets.
Yeah, right.
They don't have that same relationship with humans. Not that they don't. I mean, horse people are going to get mad and say, my horse is my best friend and I love them. And that you can have a strong relationship, but there is a difference there between these cats and dogs and those kinds of animals.
Yeah, they will often, if somebody went up to a dog and was petting it and kissing it and really treating it like the way we treat pets, other people would be like, "What the hell?" It's like petting a tractor almost, because this is a work animal. It does stuff for us. Why are you like falling in love with this
my
work
mule.
beast?
Yeah, but some cultures will use dogs as work beasts, not as pets, right?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Dogs.
Yeah, dogs. Yeah. Okay, let's pivot a little bit. So I wrote about this earlier in the week or last week about a study looking at tweets. And they fabricated tweets. Some were true and some were not true. And then they said, what happens when they throw these tweets out into the world?
Oh, man.
And it turns out that the tweets that were not true were spread faster by more people and into a wider network than the true tweets.
Why were the not true ones more
Salacious?
They were more provocative because they weren't true.
But
I'm not surprised at all.
Of course.
Yeah.
If you found some true stuff that was salacious, that would spread fast
Would
too.
it? I mean, that's the question.
Sure, it is. This seems to be totally a function on how enticing the factoid is.
Yeah, but they weren't
surprise
constructing the fake ones to be enticing or provocative. They just were not true.
How untrue is it? Is it like just sheer numbers wrong, or is it like?
Like something that didn't happen. They said this happened and it didn't happen.
So that's, that could be anything.
If it's spreading faster purely because it's fabricated, well, how the hell does that work? How do you know unless it's the tone of the fabrication?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to control
Right.
for those soft variables, right? Like to control for everything.
Seems like a critical thing to control for.
It could be because it's novel. It could
Yeah.
be because of some of the things that go along with things being fake.
Yeah, right. But it's got to be the things that go along with being fake, not just
Right.
being, because apparently the people didn't know if it was true or not. But there was something about the untrue tweets that made them more viral.
Were there
you know,
examples? Like, did you remember any examples of the fake? Like,
No.
I wonder how fake they
Right,
were.
to you, how did they seem, Steve? Did they seem innocuous? Or?
You know.
Yeah, they were like, they could be true or they could not be true. They just happened not to be true. It wasn't like, oh yeah, this is obviously not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But still, I mean, so I do think, and this is one study, and yes, you guys are immediately hitting upon the weaknesses of this kind of study because you can't control for all of these soft variables when you're talking about like how untrue is it and how provocative is it, and you know, was it obvious that it was not true? I mean, these are all great questions. But I do think it is hitting upon a fundamental reality with social media, and that is, it is a free market of ideas, right? And the question is, well, okay, in that free market of ideas, what are the market forces? What gets spread? What are people voting for by retweeting? And
Fake shit.
it's not accuracy, right?
Oh, gosh,
it's
no.
not being
I'd be
true
surprised
or
if it were.
accurate.
It's interest.
No.
It's
emotional
just,
content.
Yeah, it's just, is it pushing buttons?
What
right?
strikes your heart?
Yeah.
Right? What pushes your buttons, essentially?
Yeah, it's got to
That's what we're
resonate with you in some way. On some level, in some way, it's got to resonate with you. You got to think, oh, I got to share that with whatever.
I feel that way about certain things that I read as
I
well.
think
and I
it-
stop myself.
Even with intellectual
it.
pursuits, it's the emotional connection you have to it that attracts you to
Yeah.
it and that drives you. You know,
Yeah, we're
I mean,
emotional, semi-rational.
But is it
Yeah.
confirming something you already believe? Is it?
So that's a different layer. So I think
Yeah.
there's a couple layers here.
Yeah.
So one we could talk about is like the cat video layer, right? That has nothing to do with ideology or religious belief or political affiliation or whatever. They're just, you know, fascinating to look
Or
at cat
hardwiring,
videos.
I would say.
Yeah, so that's just fluff. That's just entertaining fluff, right? So we know that entertaining fluff is going to spread. And Jay and I have conducted our own little experiment on Facebook over
Yep.
the last few years.
Yep.
And there's pretty much an inverse relationship between how fluffy the post is and how much reach it gets.
Yeah.
Meaning that the fluffier, the more reach.
Absolutely.
The meatier posts get less reach. Just, it's a absolutely solid relationship.
What about fake
To the
cat
horror.
videos, though?
Yeah, fake.
Like what?
Fake cat videos. That would explode the
George, you might
internet.
have just stumbled on it. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
That's a different factor though. So there's the fluff versus meat factor. People
Right.
want to share quick, clickable, entertaining, light stuff.
yeah.
But then there's the, all right, this is true, responsible, conservative journalism. Like when we're talking about a news item, we're like, yeah, this study, you know, let's put it into context, and you know, it was just one study, and there are, you know, confounding factors it didn't control for, and you have to look at all this other research, and yeah, they're overhyping it. We know it's not going to be 5 years. It's probably going to be 30 years, and maybe not ever. And like so, right? That's how we talk about items. But if you're like, oh my God, this is going to change the world in 3 years, what's going to get more clicks? You know,
Of course.
So
No big surprise, though.
and this has always been the case. But the question is social media putting it on jet fuel?
Yep.
And how do we deal with it?
Clearly.
What's it going to do to our world? I mean, I think we could talk about what it has already done to our world. You know?
Hey, real quick, we're live on YouTube, so hi to all those of our listeners.
Is that working? Are we simulcasting to Facebook and YouTube?
Multicasting.
Cool.
Wow.
Awesome. First time. Ian made that happen. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thanks.
Right. Well done.
George, you were going to say something?
No. I mean, it influenced an election. I mean, already.
Well, yeah,
it's already,
yeah.
you know, I mean.
Our social media president.
Yeah,
Several
I mean, whether or
elections,
not it was
actually.
done, you know, maliciously from inside or out, regardless, it's still influenced.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's a. You selected or influenced the selection of a president of a first world country.
And it's not stopping with 2016.
And it's not stopping.
It'll get worse in 2020,
Yeah.
2020, 2024. This is a new phenomenon that we have to deal with.
Where's
How
the-
do we
where's the
compensate for it?
responsibility?
I don't know.
Yeah, where's the responsibility in the providers of the platform?
Yeah.
You know, are they
Right.
responsible? Is Twitter responsible? Is Facebook responsible to not publish untruths? You know,
Yeah.
the fake tweets, the
Well,
fake stuff, or
Speaking of YouTube, YouTube recently banned natural news.
Yeah.
yes,
They're not going, and
Infowars?
Infowars.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Just
They
the other
threatened.
day.
I don't know if he was.
That 3 strikes.
crap.
It was
Yeah,
like,
they-
this video is untrue crap, and if
Right.
this is strike 1.
Really?
Strike 3.
Just untrue crap? That was the threshold? Untrue
Yeah.
crap? Wow. That's,
That
You
is
have to
incredible.
remember, these aren't public platforms. These are private companies,
Yeah,
so they
right.
have that right.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, I do have concerns about censorship as well.
Yeah. You
Like
should.
massive concerns
We
about
all
government
should.
censorship.
I don't think it was untrue crap. I think it was libelous. I think they
Oh,
were,
gotcha.
they were
Yeah,
talking
that's
about the stories about that this guy was murdered by DNC operatives,
Yeah.
and he was a DNC operative, and that was the story they were relating to, which was, is libel the right one? What's the one in audio or libel? is
Libels and prints,
So what's the other one?
slander.
Slander. So yeah, so that was the strikes that were against
Yeah.
them. But he's getting sued too. I know
Yeah.
he's in court getting sued
Infowars.
by the Infowars.
Yeah, he's getting sued because, at least the one case I read about recently was somebody who posted video of the guy driving the car into the crowd
Right.
at the
Right.
Virginia?
yeah.
So Oklahoma?
The alt-right march, you know, and immediately there was, conspiracy theories that this guy was an operative. He's being paid by George Soros or whatever.
Right.
And meanwhile, he was just a citizen who was there and had a cell phone, took the picture. So that's part of this phenomenon. Is like any information you don't like, anyone you don't like, you can immediately just make up crap about them, make up conspiracy theories about them, trash their reputation. Now this guy's getting threatened,
Right.
on a regular basis. His family's being threatened because the people on the right are going against him for being an operative.
Right.
It's like the guy who went into the pizza where they thought the ring of pedophiles and with the machine gun because they thought, well, this is where the pedophiles are.
Right.
Yeah.
So people are believing the conspiracy theories, and they're harassing people and acting on it. And so who's responsible for that? Is there responsibility for that?
Well,
Of
look,
course, it was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
of
we're
course
gonna.
there is.
There's no boobs on Facebook or YouTube. That somehow is regulated. Like somehow they're paying attention. I don't know if that's reported. I don't know what it is. So there is a mechanism because people
Yeah.
are uploading boobs. You know they are.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
Yeah, but that's easier algorithmically to find.
Sure. But in terms of
Yeah.
there is still it's a question of degree. Then I would
Yeah.
think. So like,
Yeah, but
what
how-
is
yeah,
the
but
equivalent
George-
of boob editing for factual based information?
How, though? How
Who
do you-
gets
I don't know. I
Who
mean,
gets
it's-
suspended for putting up those sorts of?
And then
Well, and
Yeah,
also
do
there
it.
was this question just through the Facebook stream. Is it that Infowars, for example, was booted from YouTube, or is it just that his channel became demonetized?
Demonetized.
Yeah. So the videos are still there. It's just he can't make money off airing them
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Which is still big. It's still
It's
something.
big. Yeah,
It's still
big.
something.
But that doesn't mean people can't still watch them.
But yeah, we're still experimenting with these new media, right? And like there's really big questions. Who does have responsibility? So Facebook is saying we're not journalists. We're just a neutral platform.
You can't say that.
You can't say that anymore.
No.
It's like no, actually, you're pretty much fulfilling all of the roles of a media outlet. You
Yeah.
are a media outlet, and so there is some responsibility there. So
I think he's come around. I think Zuckerberg has come
Yeah.
around and realized that no, they had a huge
Yeah.
influence, and there is a responsibility.
Yeah.
What you do,
yeah,
how do you regulate for the equivalent of boobs?
yeah.
I mean, it's going to be software. It's going to be algorithms. It's going to be, our AI. That's going to
There's
have
got to be keywords. There's got to
AI
be stuff that comes
overlords.
up all the time. I mean, we could give a list of non-skeptical terms that get popped around all the time that we just in our own editing see. Holistic, or we see
Yeah.
whatever those keywords are.
flags, yeah.
We know. Okay,
Well, look at what
Quantum,
happens.
yeah.
Look what happens on
Quantum, right.
Google, right? You type in a question in Google, and on the right-hand panel, you can get like a formal
Yes,
answer
yeah.
from Google, right? And I talk to people that I know that work there, and they say that it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
They're trying to get the right answers in there, but it's all done by the software. So like,
Sure.
I email them whenever I see something that isn't legit. I'll send it off to my contact at Google. But even Google has a hard time keeping all that stuff straight. It's complicated.
course,
That's
of
the
course.
problem.
Yeah.
It's not a simple
We're
thing.
overwhelmed with information we don't know how to deal with.
Yeah. More importantly,
Yeah.
Captain Disillusion was watching, or I think he still is watching the show right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Captain.
Captain D.
Captain D.
Captain, my captain.
Another worthwhile Patreon
Yes,
page.
absolutely.
If you're unfamiliar with Captain Disillusion, go check out his stuff because it's. I know we're pimping ourselves here today, but oh my God, his stuff is so stupidly good.
It's vital.
Stupidly good.
Yeah.
We link to all of his videos on the Facebook page.
Yeah. Just the
people
level
can,
of quality.
Hi.
Yay.
Hey, Captain.
He just posted a new one today for subscribers. That was all about sort of YouTube personalities, and it's just
Good. No, he's spot on.
so
yeah.
good, so good. Makes you want to just crawl in bed.
I
and
want to
never
be
get out.
on his show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We bet on.
Don't you have to make a fake video so he can like?
He filmed us
Really?
one.
He did film us.
Yeah.
At a
I remember
town.
that.
And then I guess it never made the cut.
Yeah, we've done that to many people.
Yeah, I know. I'm not blaming. I'm just
Plus,
saying.
I think we just weren't
No, I think it
photogenic.
did.
Yeah.
Let's get
We're
real.
photogenic.
I got to meet Captain Disillusion when I was in Manchester last year for QED. He had the opening talk, and it was so good. It was interactive. It was this
Right.
really brilliant setup where he spoke to himself that was pre-recorded, and it was like genius, and none of the technology failed. I was quite jealous. But it was such a great talk, and it was cool that we got to spend a little bit of time together.
He appeared
hi
as his
again.
own intern. So the captain was on the video, but
Yeah.
Alan was the intern.
Yeah.
And there's this moment where something goes wrong, quote unquote, and like the captain cuts the audio feed and just curses him out. So you just see him like, and like poor Alan is on stage like taking it from the captain. It's so funny, so funny.
Yeah,
Alan's awesome.
yeah, he's a good guy. The other questions coming up. What's with the banana, Bob? People want to know why it's there.
It's just adorable. I mean,
that
look at
banana?
this. This is awesome. If I get hungry, I'm gonna eat this online. I mean, I asked Steve, what kind of banana is that? And I was like, is it a? Is
No,
it a
it's not. It's not anything good.
I thought it was a special one, like maybe Gros Michel or something. No, because Jay would be freaking out. But I was like, what is it? Just a mini Cavendish? He's like, yeah, probably. Like, Cavendish.
I had one. It tastes like a Cavendish.
It's cute.
Can you
I'll
imagine the
I'll
cute
eat.
little banana bread that you would make with that?
Oh yeah, it'd be a little loaf.
Little loaf, it's just, oh my, just like one bite, like.
So if you're watching, feel free to ask questions. We have people monitoring the feed. Now, Ian, where are we monitoring them?
YouTube and Facebook.
YouTube and Facebook.
YouTube
Yes.
and Facebook.
And I'm on the Discord server, so
And
if anybody
Kara's on
has
Discord,
anything
yeah.
genius,
Right.
make sure to bring it up.
Nice.
So George, you were going to interview us.
Yeah.
Cool.
You had a
boy.
question.
Oh, that's today. Oh, jeez.
Uh-oh.
No,
Yeah.
I am. Okay, so I've been doing my podcast, Geologic Podcast, geologicpodcast.com, for 11 years.
Love it.
But I do my show alone.
Yeah.
I am like a mad scientist, just alone. Voices in my head. They come out. I record the show whenever I can. I get ideas. I jot them down, and it's just me. Whatever. You guys obviously have 5 people involved.
So it's a lot easier for us than a one-man show.
No, that's not the
Trust
point.
me.
No. I think
my
in many
point.
ways it might be more difficult because it's coordination.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about whether or not I like my own ideas. So I just do them.
Or worry about
It's not
pissing
really hard
yourself
for any
off.
of
Yeah.
us.
So I would love to, if it's okay with you, I would love to talk through what a week is like for you guys from when you've posted the show to when you post the show.
Yeah.
What's involved, what everyone's sort of involvement is, how much sort of effort and time goes into it, what are the trickiest parts? I'm just so curious. So I know you post the show on Saturdays.
Yeah, Saturday noon.
Saturday noon, it's sort of uploaded. Okay,
Yeah.
Saturday, once the show is up, are you already thinking about the next show, or do you give yourself a break?
Does this
where are
VR, virtual reality.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah, I mean, so for the rest of Saturday and Sunday, it's basically family time
Okay.
and no hard work for the SGU.
Right.
Unless we have something going on.
Johnson just left.
Unless we have something going on, which seems to be always.
Except for the
okay
6
there,
months that
Josh?
we did Star Trek reviews on the for
Yeah,
Alpha
yeah,
Quadrant 6.
that was Alpha Quadrant 6.
Yeah, that's not SGU.
That's
though.
not
It's a
SGU.
different show.
Okay.
So, but I'm always doing something, right? So yeah, so you're like, are we? So if news happens that could be good for the next show, obviously we're paying attention to that. And
Okay. Do you have a file on your computer that is SGU news? What do you have?
What, you think we download articles all the time and save them on our computers?
I'm wondering. No, how does
There's the
this?
cloud now.
Okay.
The cloud.
The cloud.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
on the clue.
Cloudy.
So basically, by Tuesday, everyone should have sent me their items that they are interested in talking about for the show.
No, everyone's responsible for one item.
Everyone's responsible for one news item
At least one.
plus one other segment that they do. So Kara does a word, what's
Right.
the word, and a news item. Bob does Forgotten Superheroes of Science, and what's the word. Jay does Who's That Noisy.
Right.
Evan does the quote.
Yeah.
Everyone does a news item.
Okay.
And then I do science fiction plus a news item. And then I also come up with the emails, like what emails we're going to answer.
Okay.
That. that session. And then
Shit, Steve, you want them by Tuesday? I always send it to you late Tuesday night. I feel terrible.
yeah.
You should.
Well, so certainly, if when I wake up Wednesday morning, if I don't have your item, that's when I start to nag.
He gets cranky.
That's when I start to nag.
Okay.
It would be nice if I had
send
my
it Tuesday night before I go to bed, so it's there by Wednesday.
Well, don't forget about the rejection too. There's lots of rejection.
There's rejections,
so-
right.
Well, that was good.
I'll send multiple
Editorial would be
items,
my
yeah.
next
I
sort of
never
question,
get
but
rejected anymore.
In terms of individually, guys, like, are you throughout the week? Are you constantly scouring?
Every day.
So yeah, so every
single
day, go to my science news sites,
Yeah.
checking out stuff. Sometimes if I'll see something like the previous Friday, I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to use that next week.
Yeah.
Like the one I'm going to talk about tonight, I saw almost a week ago. I was like, I'm saving that. This is a good little topic.
Toughest one is when good news comes out, really good news comes out on Thursday, the morning after we
Yeah,
record
that's
the
right.
show.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
and then by the time you go to record it, you know it's
a
not
little
going up until the
crusty.
following Saturday. It's a 10-day lag
Yeah.
from that Thursday that you find something that you really wanted to sink your
Yeah.
teeth into.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Every once in a while, one of us will want to do the same item.
Yeah.
Oh, how often does that happen?
I mean, you know,
not
that's
that
not
overlap,
often.
a little
There's
bit.
big news.
But
Yeah.
Steve always does first in, first out, like whoever claimed it first.
Okay.
oh yeah,
Okay.
but if
For you guys, if you want to cover an item that I'm covering, then it's mine.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's
That happened to
usually
me 2 weeks ago.
yeah, that happens. But that's usually like I wrote a blog about it yesterday. You know, I mean, if I blog
That
about
happens
it,
with me and you a
it's
lot.
mine.
You have a blog.
You know?
yeah.
That happens a lot. Where I'll,
but
I'll
If
send
I
Steve
want
an
to do
item.
that one, yeah.
Yeah, but what'll happen is Steve gets up at 6 in the morning
Yeah,
every day,
every day.
and he writes a blog post.
Right.
I get up at 6:30,
3,300 word blog post.
quarter to 7, and I check the news all the time. I mean, I literally walk downstairs and tell Alexa to tell me the news for the day in the science.
What are you
news.
checking? What's your main? What's like your top 3 sites you're looking at?
Oh, I don't reveal my sources, George.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sorry.
Okay.
So
I mean, I'm using aggregators,
yeah,
so I'm
mostly-
I'm looking at hundreds of
Aggregators,
websites at that point.
crocodiles,
Yeah,
all
you
of
can't.
For keywords or like what? Like just
Yeah, like I look at science news aggregators. You know,
so
like
science news.
Reddit is actually a
Like
pretty
RSS
good
feeds.
first.
You
first
have,
source.
a feed reader that'll pull the RSS from every major science
Yeah,
news
okay,
outlet
funny.
that you've
Okay.
selected.
Wow,
So
okay.
then you can scan all of them and you can see, oh, everybody's writing about this article right
Yeah.
now, or that's
you-
something that nobody's talking about. Let's
You
dig
do
into
try to
that.
avoid like super popular stuff,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
If it's being covered a lot,
depends.
or
It
do you?
depends on what
It depends how juicy it is.
Okay.
Also, if there's a really good like space or physics one, these guys are always generally pretty good about. Yeah, all right, Bob, take it.
Well, the
'Cause
gravitational waves.
They know. Oh, you know, I was going to fight
Yeah, we
that.
kind of slipped
nano
into
stuff.
categories. Like I love doing anything about rocket launches and yeah, dentistry, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
No, but I love talking about Elon Musk and Falcon Heavy and NASA and anything to do with space launches and astronauts and all that. That's all me. I love that.
Okay, so that's news now.
Evan
everyone-
does a lot of more old school traditional skeptical.
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
like Evan
paranormal.
was pitching cool things about like seances and about like Bigfoot and things that I would never think to cover.
He's always done that from the very
Yeah.
beginning. Evan was always into that.
But they all have a different process,
Yeah.
right? So Kara sends me 5 items Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and says, "Which one do you want?" And there's always a good one in there.
Okay.
And sometimes if you like two, you'll take one of mine and then
Or I'll give it to somebody else. I'll give it to somebody else. And then Evan usually sends me like an item every day for 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
right? And then at some point, I'll say, yeah, this is the one I want you to do.
Yeah.
Bob is variable. Sometime over the week, he'll tell me the item. And sometimes we get to Wednesday, I'm like, Bob, I don't have your item. What the F?
Sometimes it's a drive.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, I go through literally hundreds and nothing's grabbing me. Like, come on, it's got to be something I can feel.
Don't you hate that? I
And
get a
then,
little panicky when it's like Tuesday late afternoon. I'm like, I can't find
Jay's
it.
the latest. Jay's always like,
Consistently
I'm like
latest.
Wednesday morning, like Jay. It's like, oh, I'll look for it this morning. I'm like, 9 times out of 10, I assign Jay his item because
Okay.
he hasn't found one yet.
Okay.
I have paralysis analysis. Like,
Yeah.
I have to feel really good about my
Yeah.
news item. I can't be like, oh, all right, I'll kind of do that. Like, it has to. To me, it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
like, oh my
It's
God, there it
obvious.
is. Yeah,
It's
it's super
obvious.
obvious.
Yeah.
Then Steve will usually, help steer a little bit if I'm. If
And then
I'm having
occasionally
analysis
I'll
paralysis.
reject them.
Yeah.
I'll reject an item just
Why?
because.
What would
so either we've covered it before,
Right.
and this isn't new enough. There's nothing. What's the update? What are we talking about? This
Yeah.
is something. We've been tread this too much, or we've been talking about this thing too much recently. So
Yeah.
let's
Okay.
put it on the back
Break it up a
burner.
little. Break it up.
Or too political. Not science enough, just not, sometimes just close. These guys know, but sometimes they're like, they know it's close to the line,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Trying to sneak it in under the
Gotta
radar.
So I have to
You throw it
decide,
out there.
is there enough science
Yeah, yeah.
here to talk about that it justifies the more ideological, political stuff, or sometimes I don't like the source. Like Evan does it because Evan looks for the pseudoscience. He sometimes will look through questionable sources.
Okay.
And I've said to Evan, if you could find a reliable source talking about this, I'll let you do it.
Okay.
But I'm not going to go based entirely on the Daily Mail or whatever it is where he got it.
Love
from.
the Daily Mail. Thank
So
goodness for
find me, if the Guardian went with it, then okay, we'll talk about it.
So Kara, where do you find your words? Like, how do you do that? Apart from the news stuff, where do you find your words?
That's a way different process because sometimes I'm lucky enough that in the science news that I've been reading for the week, a new word pops up that I don't recognize. But that's a much more passive aggregation, like just the things I'd read both for pleasure and for school, the things that I hear on the, just from talking to different people. Anytime there's a word that strikes me, I have a running list.
Okay, nice.
And then I'll just keep pitching them to Steve. I pitch Steve about 5 words every week, and a lot of them are repeats because I'm waiting for that word's turn.
Yeah.
Sometimes after he hasn't chosen it enough, I know that he's not into that word, and it'll rotate. I also really rely on you guys, on everybody who's listening to the show right now. You send in amazing word ideas.
Yeah,
and
crowdsourcing is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how many news items would you say come from listeners?
So it's hard to say because usually by the time a listener has seen the news item and sent it to me, I've already seen it.
Okay.
Most of the news items we cover, probably 2 or 3 people have also suggested it to us.
So there's overlap.
There's a ton of overlap.
But in terms of fresh, like, none of us has seen
Occasionally.
this.
So we tell people, send us the items. It's great. But we have, obviously, with so many sources, including just us going to aggregators, some things we've seen it. And there is a lot of people do send me items that I blogged about, and I just hit reply with a link to my blog.
Yeah. Okay. So now, Bob, in terms of your superheroes, how do you work on that? How do you find them? Do you have a list? Do you have a?
There's a few different ways. I get suggestions all the time, which is great. Keep them coming. I often use the suggestions. Also, often I just see them on TV. Somebody just mentions somebody, because I think it's more in the public consciousness now. And I will occasionally hear on TV somebody just mentions somebody. Like, oh, let me look her up. Then other times I just explicitly just do a search: superhero of science, unsung hero of science. I hit that vein, but I tap that vein hard. It's harder. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there.
4 years in, 5 years in. Yeah.
But once I really start looking, I still find there's so many of them out there.
Cool.
I think I'm realistically not. This still. I think can go for years for doing it. We're gonna Steve. We're gonna do a.
Bob and I are in the pre-planning phase of a book, The Forgotten Superheroes.
Nice.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can talk about it, but
I assume that Evan and Jay also, you guys, in terms of you finding your noise or your quote similar. I mean, maybe the noise might be more difficult in terms of
I don't know
you
how
come across a noise.
Either you guys do it. The quotes maybe are a little easier, but the noise, Jay. For what I remember a year ago, Jay, you were like, I can't find anything. It's like we've done so many over the years, and then you got like a second wind. I don't know how that worked.
Well, I've been really asking the listeners to help because it don't forget, I also inherited this from Evan, right? Mm-hmm. So I had to acquaint myself with all the noises that he did, and there's even though there's probably 1,000 or thousands of them out there that I would love for the show, it's hard to connect to them, Yeah. So I have to crowdsource it at this point. I mean, try searching for interesting sounds on the internet. You know what I mean? Right. The sources that people typically send me are from YouTube. Somebody stumbled on a cool video, which is super helpful. I mean, like what Kara said, I need the listeners to do it. I love it when a listener sends it in too because it's fun. It's more engagement. I like calling people's names out and letting people know that they're, I'm reading their emails. I try to write back to people as often as I can, but sometimes I get hundreds of emails for who's that noisy.
Sure.
Sometimes we swap tat. Sometimes, I remember I started with the quote over a decade ago. I actually started with the quotes, and then it went to Perry, right? Then Jay, Evan.
That's rotated around.
Right. Yeah. So, but the who's that noisy? I never want that. Never give that to me. I'm not going to do it. Just letting you know, I'm never going to do that damn thing.
It's fun though, Bob, because
no way. It's just too.
There's a lot
too hard.
I really enjoy, even though it takes hours, it takes a lot of time to go through the emails that I get. And Evan, you know how you must have had something similar.
It was
it's a
hours of work
tsunami of emails.
Tons.
But people, I mean, lots of things I can't say on the show, like really crazy shit that's funny as hell, like making fun of us.
Yeah.
Usually it involves Steve, like, oh, that's Steve taking a shower, blah, blah, blah. You know, yeah, but every once in a while someone makes me, you know, I what do you call it? You know, something comes out of your nose. Yeah.
Evan, do you have a master list of every quote that's been used? Or?
Yes. Yeah, there is. There's a running list in which there's a site. There's a
We have a
like
web
wiki.
page.
Yeah, we have a.
Oh, okay.
It's like
13
a wiki
years worth.
for
Yeah,
quotes.
660.
Yeah.
It needs some updating, so it's got I think about 500 of the episodes.
Have you found something
And
been
so
like,
that's all
oh
for
crap, we
fans?
used
Yeah,
that?
From
absolutely.
listeners
Yeah,
keeping track?
I have to. I don't know who's been keeping it up. It was a fan that was doing it for a while. I know Mike Lascelles initially
Yeah.
was keeping track of that and doing a catalog of it. Somebody else sort of picked it up along the way, but it's since fallen
So-
off. But I've been working with sort of my own list
Yeah, you know what, Ev?
since then.
From when I was doing it, and I thought I transferred this knowledge to you, but I think there is a way we can export, because Steve puts all the quotes into the app. We can export it. It's in a database.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's in a
Yeah.
database.
Good.
Okay, so we've gathered all the data for the show, and I think the main point being is that your radar is on constantly.
Yeah, constant. It's
Just
gotta be
you are
constant.
constantly
24/7.
gathering and collecting and making notes for yourself
Yeah.
and putting
And
stuff
I'm reading
together.
every email and saying,
you're-
all right, this is what we got to talk
Yes,
about.
no, yes,
Yeah.
yes, no, yes, yes.
You didn't ask about science or fiction, though.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
That's
That could be a
He
little
will
beast.
not reveal these
No, it's none of your
secrets.
goddamn business.
That's why I didn't want to.
GD, huh?
So that takes me longer than almost anything else.
Wow.
You know, I spend hours doing science or
Hours.
fiction. Hours.
Okay.
It's
Surprisingly
really
hard. It's
Yeah, it's
surprisingly
very
hard.
hard.
Sure.
They've all done it
done
at least
it.
a few times, and
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. So I just go through. I usually probably have to go through 200 or 300 news items to pick the ones that I want. And there are weeks when I'm like, there's nothing. You know, I'm like, I've almost exhausted the week's news, the week's science news, and I'm not
Yeah.
getting like my first item, let alone 3. And then so my fail safe is I pick a theme.
Yeah.
You know, then because then that's so much easier to pick a theme. Then it's
Okay.
like, oh, I have 3 weird facts about Pluto. Okay, it's very narrow. I could come up with 3 things about Pluto.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
whatever
It's not
it is.
news-based.
Yeah.
You're not tied to the news
Right,
at that
right.
point.
And it's funny, whenever he announces that we're doing a theme, we're all kind of like, oh, these themes are hard.
All my prep, all the
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah,
I
Bob's
read
like,
today.
so all that reading I did was for nothing. Well, you learned some science, I hope. Or nothing.
I can't complain too
So
hard.
there was a year, I remember talking to Mike Lascelles about this.
Yeah.
There was a year when, George, I wanted to win science or fiction that year. And I read science news
Yeah.
like up until the minute we recorded the show, and I was just
Yeah.
like searching and checking, and I did do better that year. I
Okay.
did
Yeah.
do better.
You did.
But it was painful.
Yeah.
I just was like, I can't do this anymore, man. I'm
I'm
over
actually
it.
surprised that you did better because sometimes I feel like a little knowledge spoils your ability to do well on
certainly
science.
can.
Well,
Yeah.
I specifically target somebody who read the headline only.
That's right. The damn headlines.
No, seriously.
Yeah, you got to dig deep. You
I
got to dig
twist
deep.
it so that if you read the headline, you will get this one wrong.
Wow.
So I do
And
that
I get those
deliberately.
wrong all the
I've been
time because I
bitten.
read a lot of, headlines before I dig deep into the articles.
Right.
Okay, so we've gathered all the information. All the emails have flown back and forth.
Yeah.
All the items are approved. Steve has selected yes, yes, yes.
I put the list together.
You put the list
So
together.
Show notes. Like here are the show notes. This is what we're talking about. And
Here's what we're going to do. Wednesday comes along. What time do you start? What time does everyone
7:30.
7:30.
7:30, we're all on. We usually chat for 15 or 20 minutes.
Or 45 minutes.
You're all in your own homes. Everyone's in their own.
That's 4:30 my time because
4:30
I'm on a
West Coast.
completely different coast.
Yeah.
All that.
So no one's together. Everyone's in their own
Right.
house, in their own
Yeah.
in their own computer, their own thing.
Right.
And during those 15 to 20 minutes,
Yes.
I've been secretly recording those
Yes.
for the past couple of years.
What? Years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will this be available to you?
Yeah, so this is
gonna bribe
gonna
you
be
soon.
the-
So to subscribe, you will get access
That's
to the
$1,000 a
free
month.
show.
What we don't.
No,
we haven't
that's-
had that level yet.
They
That
are-
can never see the light of day.
No, yeah. I have to listen to them, and then this is what Steve said. Steve goes, all right, you filter one, and then you start sending them to me. And when I feel like you get it, then I'm going to let you post them yourself. He knows me. He knows I'm like, let's go up there.
Okay.
But yeah, so patrons will have access to the behind-the-scenes pre-show banter, is what I called it.
Okay.
All right, new total 954.
954. Ooh, we're getting close. We're getting close.
46 more to go to 1,000. Come on, guys, we want to break 1,000 this show.
Yes, to hear
We're
all
not
the-
letting George leave until we do.
That's right.
I am chained to
We will
this
not
chair.
unshackle him.
I can't get away from the, yeah.
Crazy glue.
But to hear those 15 minutes before the show, which, folks, trust me, it is worth hearing what happens before the show. Some of the funniest, craziest moments are right before and right after the
Some of
program.
that can't ever go to air.
No.
And it won't. And it won't.
No, Kara, don't worry.
Uncensored.
Kara, just keep those PayPal payments coming to me. And
Yes.
I think you should have a trigger. After the last one of us dies, they get mass uploaded onto the
taunting.
internet.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
nice. Nice.
This
Yes.
happens quite often. Is that's our warm up. You know, we're
Yeah,
first
it's
off,
just listening up.
We're all friends and family,
Yeah,
so we
saying
want to talk
hi,
to
what's
each
up,
other.
what's
Yeah,
going on?
we
Hey,
usually
did you hear the thing? Can you
Business.
believe
We
that
talk,
he said
we talk
that?
business.
we hear very
you
little from
believe-
Kara because she's like traveling and working. You know, so like
Right.
as soon as Kara gets on, we're like, oh, you know, we start going nuts. And then there like 20 minutes will go by, and then we're all the way in on politics. With
Oh,
a
my
lot of these
God.
talks too, because that's where we all like open up. And then we were like, man, if our listeners heard that's going to be better than the show. That was
Yes.
off the hook. Oh my God. And then we know, like, and those are the discussions that I don't think we'll ever make it because it's too crazy.
It's not Skeptic's Guide.
No, it's just
isn't.
Right.
But it's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, so the 20 minutes of banter is done and the program starts.
Well, we
How-
do ads.
And we do the ads.
do ads
Do
first?
the ads
Or the
first.
ads.
All the
Okay,
ads.
so you pre-record all of the sort of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hey, isn't
Oh,
it
and
great?
the ads
how-
take like 6 minutes to do like
they run
a
smooth as
1 minute
40-second ad.
Sure,
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like 6 times.
We
yeah.
always feel
30-second
like
ad.
we didn't do a good enough job.
It's hard.
It is very hard because
Those ads,
you know,
man.
when we legitimately, just so you know, George, because I know you care about things like this, we do test anything that's testable. Like,
I'm wearing, an item right now that might be a future advertiser.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there
We'll hear
is
about it.
yeah,
a,
it's legit.
Underoos.
Yes.
there's an absolute threshold. You won't take anything. You've turned
We've turned down a lot.
Oh wait.
We've got into arguments with our agents about, we're not doing that.
What's the craziest thing you've
So
turned
one
down?
company,
that's good.
and we don't want to mention companies because there's a certain,
Sure.
there's a confidentiality here. But there was a company that superficially looked fine. We're like, okay, yeah, the product looks fine, the company looks fine, it looks good.
Flashlight. There's a flashlight, right?
No. And then, so we dig into the website, and you had to dig a little bit,
Yeah.
and then like
The
they have this
woo
page on feng
came out.
shui. Like they're selling their item with feng shui. So we're like, nope, we can't do it. We can't do it.
Yeah.
So
Why not?
we pulled out late in the process
Yeah.
because it was stealthy. We didn't see it until it was too late.
Right.
And the
so we
problem
said,
is,
guys, we can't do it. We
at
can't
that
do it.
stage, you're going through 2 layers of salespeople.
Sure.
It's you, your rep, the advertiser's rep, and then the advertiser.
Yeah.
So there's like 2 agents in between, and those are the money people. That
Yeah.
So when those 2 people found out that we were like, sorry, we can't do this, they were like, what?
Yeah, because they've already pre-sold.
Oh, they're already
year,
buying
yeah.
the car. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So that was a hard one, and that broke a few
What can we
backs.
do?
Well, what can you do? Yeah,
What
what
can
can
we
you
do?
do? Okay.
But we turned down 95% of the.
Well, well, we filter out more than that.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Now now we're using mid-roll, and they're good in that they have lots of activity, but here's 300 potential advertisers,
300.
and we got to go through them.
Wow.
And of course, 99% of them are just filtered out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Layer
it's
one.
not because of pseudoscience, but like
It's just there's tons of ways.
we don't want to
They don't make sense for us.
nothing
Yeah.
with
They don't make sense
politics,
for us.
nothing with we try to stay away from news and things like that. We don't want to
Well,
we can't have
Yeah.
any.
We're going to advertise with companies that our listeners would actually want to buy because the advertisers don't want to work with us if you don't partake in their products.
Well,
Like
plus-
if
Yeah.
we read ads and then nobody buys the thing we're selling,
Right.
they're not going to keep paying us. So we have to make those decisions.
So it has to be appropriate, but also there are lots of editorial policies. So like, for example, we will never advertise for a pharmaceutical company, not because they're not legitimate or their products aren't legitimate, it's because we review, pharmaceutical stuff. It's like, we can't do it.
Yeah. You can't be seen to be
Yes.
getting paid
So,
by.
yeah.
Even if you're pro pharma, you can't be
No,
seen.
you
as-
can't.
Right.
So there's a lot of those things too, like just off the bat, like, nope, you can't do
So
that.
look at Rob Palmer brought that up. Can we say that?
I can't see it.
Rob Palmer?
What does it say?
So now, when you subscribe,
I
by
don't
the
think
way,
you should say it, Jay.
No. I don't know. I'll leave it up to
This is
Steve.
a live show. I think we should be careful.
Sorry, Rob, can't talk about that.
When you subscribe, you get an option of a commercial-free stream, correct?
Yes.
So
at the $8 level,
at the $8 level.
Biopunk level, you get an ad-free version of the show.
So it's,
but we've had
And
some
the premium.
people who at that level are like, you know what, I missed the ads. They're kind of fun.
They're kind of fun, yeah.
Yeah, so we try to make them fun and
right.
relevant and whatever. So that, but if you don't like some people hate the ads. You'll get the ad-free version.
Okay.
At the Biopunk
20-minute
level.
banter's done. 6 minutes, 10 minutes of commercials are done.
Yeah.
You start the show.
Yeah.
How long do you record for? We're at 8 o'clock.
3
So where are we going to go?
Well, we're 10:30. We ended 10:30. Is pretty
Is it a
much
hard stop? Like,
No, it's not a hard stop.
Hard stop.
It is, that's the average time
That's
that we
funny,
stop,
man.
around 10:30. So
Okay,
that's
so
2.5 hours.
10 to 10:30. 10 to
8 to
10:30.
10:30, we're pretty much recording.
10? No, that's rare for
Is
me to
it?
be out
10
by
is rare.
10's
is
rare. It's 10:30 is our average.
And 11 is rare, and 10:30 is
So
the bell curve.
easily
Wait, let me do the
2.5.
math.
2.5,
Easily 2.5
easy,
is
yeah.
kind of your thing. Okay.
Yeah, the later ones are when we are interviewing somebody live
Yes, the
during
interviews
that
And we're doing a
show. Like,
long
sometimes
interview,
we
which is
have
going to be
interviews-
premium content.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
That makes sense.
takes a long time.
Yeah.
Can you tell when you're doing the program, like, this is a good one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
You get a sense of
think
that?
so.
Yeah.
Can you tell,
I
like,
don't know though. Sometimes Steve will cut your item.
well,
And you'll
let's
be
see.
like,
We're going to
"Man,
get to
that was
editing in a
good one,"
second.
And then it
Yeah.
doesn't ever make it to the show.
Yeah, huh?
So this is what happens. when we're a good show, in my book, is when we're on a news item and then we veer off and something else happens.
Yeah.
And then we're just talking and we're weaving in our own stuff and it kind of evolves into something else. Because usually, like, we want to give the person who prepped the item the time to speak their piece.
Sure.
But to me, it's all about the conversation and it's all about the spontaneity. And that's what I love the most about the show when it happens. Of course, sometimes we have to edit that out for length or because we went nuts.
Content.
Yeah, we went kooky. We went in a place where we can't go.
I'm editing while we're recording.
Yeah.
That's my other question. So
Yeah.
what do you, not to get too geeky or too techy, but what are you running in terms of what's on your screen? Are you
So the technical process, I have Audacity.
Audacity.
Everyone's on their own track.
Right.
I have whatever else is going on, like the music, the interview, whatever. And then I listen to the whole 2 hours and 10, 2 hours
But
and 20
while you're doing
minutes.
it, everyone's recording themselves as well, or they're just
So
going
this is
all
what
straight?
I'm doing post-production. While we're recording, everyone's recording themselves. And then
Right.
they send me the files.
Okay.
They're supposed to send them to me right after the show is over.
Right after.
Right after.
I always do.
Yeah, Karen
He was looking at me.
good about it.
There's been a couple of mornings. But sometimes you cue it up and it fails. It doesn't go
Yeah,
on.
but
Yeah.
it's your responsibility to not only upload it, but to check to make sure that it's up.
I have to say this,
You
though.
forget that
Every
second
once
part.
in a while, I get a call from Steve at 6:30 Saturday morning.
Oh, Saturday morning.
Saturday. I never get a
oh
Saturday.
boy.
And he goes,
Rare.
Jay, why the am I calling you right now? I'm like jumping out of bed, and like running into.
It's coming. It's coming. It's
Well,
coming.
sometimes like they uploaded their zip file or whatever, and it doesn't unzip. It failed.
okay, yeah.
So they didn't confirm that the zip worked. So I got a dead file, and so I think I have the file, and then when I'm going through it, it fails.
Don't zip your files.
Okay.
So I then, right? So
What?
Are you recording?
That happens?
yes,
You get bad zip
I get
files?
bad zip files.
Do you have a backup in terms of live when you're recording? Are you hearing what like everyone's conversation? Is that being recorded?
No.
Oh, so
Not
there
usually.
isn't. So there
Only
isn't sort of a
backups.
thing. So everyone's recording their own, and that's
that's
you
it.
gotta have your
I gotta
own.
get
We've experimented.
The quality's so bad.
with
it wouldn't be
Zencastr.
Of course,
though.
yeah.
We might try
Zencastr.
Yeah, there are
Zencastr.
programs that help with
Yeah.
that, but
Okay, so it's 10:30. Everyone, 11 o'clock, whatever, hopefully has downloaded their thing and they've uploaded it back to you. Thursday morning comes along and you start editing, or what? when do
No,
you
so
start doing stuff?
Thursday morning I'm starting to gather the files and seeing who got it. Thursday night I'm like unzipping the files. Maybe I'll do an ad, and then
You're putting them into the Audacity, lining them all
So
up.
I'd
'cause-
like to get by Friday night. I'd like to be at the point where I have all the files. I've done the ads. The files are in Audacity, and it's all queued up and ready to go.
Is it hard to line up? I mean, is it hard to take this 5 different files and
No,
it's pretty
it's
obvious?
really
as to
easy.
what's-
Yeah, it's very
you've gotten
obvious.
to be really
Yeah.
proficient at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I've done this so many times now.
Sure.
I'm as efficient as you get, I think, at doing, just the raw, post-production.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I get up at Saturday, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I do post-production for 6 hours. until noon. So 6 to noon
And
on
then
Saturday.
you post it immediately.
Are
Yeah.
you listening to the entire thing top to
Yes.
bottom? Or are you listening as you go and you're editing? What's your process there when you're editing?
Yeah, I edit as I go. I mean, I just heard the whole thing 2 days ago.
So you've lived it and you think,
I lived
okay,
it.
are you making notes to yourself?
No.
Like this was good,
I might
this
make
was bad?
mental notes.
Mental notes.
Yeah, so I remember.
You don't make notes to yourself,
No.
Steve? Oh my gosh. Like on
remember.
my separate podcast, which is like you, George, like it's just me, or it's
Yeah.
me interviewing somebody on Talk Nerdy. I use Zencaster, and Zencaster has a timeline footnote tool. So if my
nice.
dog barks, if I feel like I said something weird and I want to, it's rare that I edit, but I make notes in the timeline because literally 10 minutes later, all of that has fallen out of my
Yeah,
head.
but you're not listening to the entire show and editing it. You're just going.
No, I don't have time for that. Neither do you, Steve.
That's what I
I do
do.
not have time for that.
Believe me, you guys need to be edited. I mean, seriously, I have to listen to every second.
So you're saying
of the
6
show.
a.m. to noon you're editing?
Yes.
6 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah, but that's
Every
that's
Saturday.
our agreement though with
Yeah.
the Skeptics Guide is that
It's
we know-
unscripted.
It's unscripted. We know it's edited, so we're loose. You know,
Yes.
that's that.
Because I will catch them.
Because right now we're not acting the same exact way we do when we're recording
Yeah.
the show. It's a little bit
As
different.
in, there's way less f-bombs.
Yeah.
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 And then sometimes I literally fall asleep while I'm editing. Like I just sitting there, I fall asleep. And then there are times where I probably didn't fall asleep. Like I listen back, like for whatever reason I have to go back, and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking of? I mean, like,
Yeah, you were altered.
that go.
I clearly have drifted off at some point, and I was not editing this 1 minute. Is 1 minute, like, because there's like too many ums and a pause, and you know what I mean? Like, there's things that I would not leave in there if I was conscious during that minute. You know?
Does it? I know when I've recorded with you guys, sometimes a rogue will start over
Yeah.
a segment. Does that annoy the crap out of you, or you just understand that's the deal?
No. So that's why I cut out all the false starts. Like two
Yeah.
people talk over each other. Like, you go, give me a clean start. I cut all that out.
Yeah.
You know, some people have mouth clicks, which drive me crazy. So I always cut them out. Your show has a lot of mouth clicks. You should edit them out, George.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I don't hear
you know,
that.
Yeah, you do it. You
Hey,
do it too,
Steve.
Shay.
I mouth click.
Yeah.
I mouth click.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. You have a dry mouth.
When?
At the beginning of every sentence, there's a click, and I cut it out because it drives me crazy.
Oh my God. Why, after all these years, Steve, you should have. I can drink water when we're.
Yeah, you should do that.
Perry used to
Everyone has a thing.
We're mouth clicking fools over here.
Everyone has their own
Perry
thing.
used to have his whistle bottle of water.
Perry would with a whistle.
What? And then people would write in, what is that noise in the background?
Oh my God.
So 6 hours is average, or is that's pretty much every time it's going to be 6 hours?
I got it down.
Yeah.
And that includes uploading and everything. So it's
Okay.
like really like 4 hours of hard editing.
Of hard editing,
4.5 hours,
yeah.
5, depending on whatever. And then sometimes I have to make big decisions like, okay, you know, I have to get the 2 hours, 2:10, 2:20 down to 1:30, you know, ish.
Right.
And so there's a lot of crap that comes out easy. You know, I get rid of all the bad stuff. But sometimes there's like 10, 20 minutes I got to lose. Got to lose 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, I can abridge every segment, and sometimes that's what I do. Or sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to cut this 20-minute segment out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gives me more room for everything else.
Sure.
This becomes premium content.
Okay, so you
and-
save it
Yeah, save
for
it. That
premium
becomes premium
stuff.
content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're not cutting us, you're making us
You're
premium.
premium. That's right.
Yeah.
Premium. Nothing gets
Steve,
wasted.
one of our listeners here, Rashid, I think that's how you pronounce that. I apologize, Rashid, if I'm saying that wrong, wants to know how many hours of sleep you get a night.
Not enough. I fall asleep. So I try to get 8 hours, 10 to 6. I pretty much wake up at 6 no matter when I go to bed. Although sometimes I wake up earlier and it's just because I don't get enough sleep. But so yeah, I try to get 8 hours, 10 p.m. to 6. Sometimes, you know, I might not get to bed until 10:30, or I might not fall asleep until 11. I still get up at 6.
Yeah,
Party
so
animal.
what you guys don't hear in the show are all the times that Steve has to edit himself yawning at
Yeah.
us when we're recording.
Yeah.
I'm a morning person. I'm you know, it's all I can do to get through the show in the night. I do edit. I do try to silence out my yawning.
Yeah.
That's not boredom. That's just I
Just
just
tired,
I'm-
yeah.
That's my tired yawn.
So we hit noon on Saturday. You upload it, and then the whole process starts all over.
yeah,
again.
that's it.
And that's week after week.
And
after
we haven't
week.
missed it in how
13
many
years.
You haven't missed it in 13 years. Now, when you do like a Psycon or a TAM
Yeah.
or something, and you do 3 or 4 shows in a weekend, and then you get to use those,
Oh,
I'm sure the
God,
process is
it's awesome.
similar.
That must be
But then you get like
it's
a week or
beautiful.
two off, let's say.
Yeah, for recording. I still have to do the post-production.
Right. But in
Yeah.
terms of then your Wednesday night get together, we're off this week, guys.
Yeah.
We can
That's
just-
nice.
Either way, yeah, it's nice to have the occasional Wednesday off, although sometimes you say, all right, guys, we don't have to record a show on Wednesday. Let's get together and talk about the book that we're writing. You know?
Right.
There's always something going on.
Right.
There's
Right.
always something going
Speaking of which, how's the book that you're writing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
It's
written.
rich.
It is
Completely
done.
100%
Completely
done.
It's so done that we're writing the second book.
Yeah. But it's still,
And third.
there's a process in terms of the publications. Let's talk a little bit about the book.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, that's what's involved in putting the show on every week. I know everyone tunes in and they listen to it and they're amazed by it and it's fantastic, but it is a redonkulous amount of work that goes into it. So when you're wondering about your $8 a month or $5 a month or whatever you're generous enough to give, like that's nothing. That's a coffee. That's
Right.
a coffee a month that you are giving to get what 20, 30, 60, 80 hours worth of work. And it never leaves these guys. I know these guys personally, and it's all, like it is consistently in their brains making the show as good as it can possibly be. And to do it for 13 years and to have the level of quality be as good as it's been for as long as it's been, that's not an accident. That's not an accident. That's pure effort. So subscribe and make it at least a little bit easier to do stuff with better gear and better cameras and lights and the occasional pizza. You know.
And hiring Jay.
And hiring Jay, yes. Let Jay leave the workforce.
Please.
George, we just talked about producing the show.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about running the business.
Of course.
Which is
Of course.
an incredible
God.
amount of work.
Absolutely.
Doing stuff like making this event happen that
That's
we're
right.
doing right now was a ton of work.
Yeah.
Or
And
writing books.
Yeah, writing
Every
books, writing
piece,
blogs.
dealing with
you see
advertisers.
this set doesn't just appear.
Yeah.
You know, these lights aren't just magically hung by themselves. I mean,
It's not a
this is
green screen
all-
behind us.
Yeah, there's no green screen. This is all constructed. This is all done. This is in a basement of a house. It's not. Like this doesn't just happen. So be aware. I mean, folks are aware, but sometimes you forget. Because you get so inured. It's like when you watch
It's a job. It's
professionally done
it's
TV
a
shows.
full-time
You think
job.
like, oh, okay, whatever. It's a
Yeah.
Herculean effort
Yeah.
that goes into doing stuff.
And we have day jobs.
And you have
right.
day jobs, right?
That's right.
It kind of reminds me of you see a really good movie, like one of the good superhero movies that come out, or any big action movie, and you're watching like, yeah, that was a really good movie, I loved it. And sometimes, especially if it's certain types of movies, you wait until the end of the credits because you want to see some special Easter egg or whatever. And then I'm just sitting there, and you're looking at this
Thousands.
tsunami of names and talent scrolling by. It's like, oh my God, the effort to make that
No wonder this cost
two-hour
$200
movie.
million.
Well, yeah,
Everybody gets $100 bucks. That's like
it's
$200
monumental.
million.
And so I'm not comparing our
Stars
effort
pay
to
the
the
crew.
man hours that goes into a movie, but I mean, it adds up.
But
and
it's
the effort is behind the scenes. It would surprise
It
you.
never stops. I mean, it's always there. The SGU is always there, like a parrot on my shoulder. You know, if I were a pirate.
Sure. But the ultimate thing I think, which is great, is that if you want to listen to the show for free, you can.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important bit. You guys didn't get into this to make money or to have it be some kind of a business. It was to spread information. And if you can't afford anything, you can still listen to the program. That's
Well, and
the
that's the
coolest
great thing about the Patreon model is that
Right.
the people who can afford to give are making it so that the people who can't afford to give get to still enjoy it for free. And that's what I really love about this kind of crowd-funded, this support model, is that you're helping pay our checks to put in this effort, but you're also helping make sure that, that guy over there, that woman over there is never going to have to pay to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
You would never have it be
We
purely
promised we will always produce the show for free.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kara mentioned I'm definitely trying. We're trying to get our Patreon up enough to hire me full time. Unfortunately, I live in Connecticut, which is an incredibly expensive state. I mean,
Right.
a friend of mine my friend Steve moved to Texas, and you're talking about what his shopping bill costs compared to ours in Connecticut is very
It's a little different.
very different.
It's different. So you're moving to Texas.
But we've all made a commitment to keep doing the show, and we need more man hours, and that's really like what we've learned is that this company needs a lot more time and attention and love and delicate hands to get a lot of work done. Like as an example, it took me almost to the day. It took me a month to just make the Patreon itself, full time. Full time.
Yeah.
That's how hard it was.
Yeah.
I feel like the SGU, we have an important message. We're activists, and let's not forget that. We're doing this. 99% of why we're doing this is because we have a love for it, and we feel that our message is important. And it is very important. I mean, just by the fact of the emails that we get in, we're lucky enough to be in a position where we've developed skills where we're helping people learn about science.
We have a particular set of skills.
But do you know that this hit me the other day, because I've been doing it for 11 years. You guys have been doing it for 13. Like I got such a lovely email from a person who was like 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
And they started listening to the show when they were like 10 and 11.
I know.
And you realize like the influence that you have, on a developing person.
We've gotten some recent emails to that very point.
Yeah.
I know that.
People who are now in
incredible.
college,
Right.
who started listening to us when they were, their
9,
parents
10, their
introduced
parents.
them to it, and we've
It's so
touched
cool.
them in some way.
Yeah.
It's
Christ, we're
remarkable.
old.
Yeah, now we feel it's funny because it's very different. It's very similar to being in a band, where in the beginning it's like you're the reason why you're doing it is different than later years you look back on it, and I feel like in a weird kind of way like we owe it to our listeners to keep going, and because of the help that we've provided and the information that we give. And let's face it too, like the book is coming out at a very opportune time because the world is full of shit right now. Like we need all the skeptics and all the skeptical podcasts and all the authors that are out there. We our voice is important, man.
Well, I think getting back to the like, what do we do about tweeting, twittering, fake items and stuff. The only real solution in a world where anybody can post anything and you could manufacture fake news people basically have weaponized fake news, right? I mean, that's basically what's happening.
Right.
Or they're using it, I mean, like Alex Jones, I think the evidence suggests that he's just selling snake oil and the whole conspiracy thing is just his shtick.
Yep.
That's his sales shtick.
He's a character.
Yeah, it's how you can sell stuff.
He's a character.
That was a revelation. That was when I saw
Protein
that on
shakes.
John Oliver, because I thought he was just full of crap with all this conspiracy. But then when he listened to the whole show, and he and his people were like, whoa, wait a second. The crazy stuff is just in between the trying to scam you out of your money stuff.
Right.
It's like, I did not know that.
But the only real protection is skepticism, man. You have to, we need the population has to be more critical thinking. Have minimum level of scientific literacy and critical thinking literacy. That's what we need. You need to be able to protect yourself. By the way, 969. We're at the halfway.
The
halfway mark
of the 900s.
of the show. Hour and a half in, we're at 969.
Wow.
So
Kind of half.
Thank you.
we never would have thought that this fake news thing was going to hit while we were making the podcast. Like, I don't know. Was I dreaming? I thought when we started this, and there was this huge growth of the skeptical
on your ass?
community.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we met George. We met George at TAM.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, we're mobilized.
It's turning.
Yeah, we're going to turn a page here, and something good is going to happen. And it's very weird. Like all of a sudden, like social media goes in this crazy direction, and the next thing you know, I'm looking at the internet kind of like the enemy in a weird kind of way. Like this was my platform, and now I'm like, man, this is dangerous stuff, man. Like, oh my God, what happened?
The internet. Yeah.
So
We turned to ashes in our mouth.
listen, I put it to you, the people that like this content. Like, if any of you are interested in becoming a science communicator and a critical thinker and a skeptic, do it. We need you. We need the next generation. We need people to continue to do this. 10 years from now, you could be, running your own podcast or your own YouTube channel, and people need that information. So. Think about it.
Not even 10 years. It's astounding
Yeah, like
how
10 days from now,
10
you can
days from
start a
now,
podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Boy, I did Logical LA, and one of the speakers, I forget his name. It's shameful that I forget his name. He was 18. He's a British blogger. Do you remember his name?
He was awesome.
I forget his name. Jonathan something.
Something. Good day. Australia.
He was wonderful.
But he was giving this talk, and he was talking about just sort of dissemination of facts and things on the web, and he's a YouTuber, and he finished his talk, and someone had mentioned he flew in to LA, and he can't go to the bar because he's not old enough. I was like, wait, how old is he? We're not sure. So I walked over and said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old are you? He's like, I'm 18. And went like, what?
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, and it was amazing. And like that.
You hated him a little, right?
Absolutely,
At that moment?
totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
he kicked his ass, Bob.
Yeah, no, it's just not fair. I said I wasn't allowed to use the stove when I was 18. You know, it's like, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So
George, I got to say this too. I am a real fan of your show. I love your
Yeah.
show.
oh, you're very sweet.
Yeah, not for nothing. If you haven't listened to the Geologic podcast, George's podcast, it's awesome. I
Dynamite.
listen to it all the
a lot
time.
of mouth clicking.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
But-
You have to put up with a lot of the clicking, but yeah. George is able to introduce an intense level of humor into Yeah.
skepticism and critical thinking. And you know, like I thought that the show was special to me because I knew George, and I'm like, oh, this is my friend. Like we know each other. You know, George and I are like family at this point. But after talking to other people who are just as into your show as I am, they feel that close to you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that is very cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's the one-sided friendship we call
Yeah.
it. Where it's like people know me really, really well, and I have no idea who they are, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But it's just nice. It's just nice, and like you meet these people at
Makes it
conferences.
special.
Yeah, and
It
they come
does
up
make
to
it
you, and it's
special.
like they'll ask you, "How's your mom?" or How did your car work out?" or
Yeah.
what happened to the skis? And it's just like, oh yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, you know everything.
Yeah.
Everything. But it's cool.
The
It's
guy
just
dancing
really
in the
cool.
aisle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and stuff I forget about too. Or you guys get that all the time too.
Yeah.
Where someone will have listened to a show that morning that you recorded 5 years ago, and they'll come up and they'll say pancakes.
Yeah.
And you'll be like,
I got nothing. A little context would be nice.
it's like, yeah,
fella.
show 261 when you were like, remember you were in Australia and you couldn't find pancakes. Oh yeah, right. Okay, yeah, thank you. Sure, good to see you. No, but you know, to them it's cool and it's special, and it's like
Yeah.
that is the benefit of the internet and the
Yes.
ability for us nobodies to have a gigantic audience, relatively speaking. But the price is that anyone can do it and anyone can disinform.
Yeah,
Of course.
It's like,
Yeah,
crap,
you know
what
the
are we gonna
opposite
do?
I know you're right. No, we got to
Wield
fight
this
it back,
power
man.
for good or for evil.
Yeah.
There's no
Any
filters in
technology-
place.
Like any
now.
technology.
Randy said it in his book title, "Fighting the Fakers." You remember, you know,
Yeah.
it was- that was a TAM name of a TAM,
Yeah.
right? We have to constantly whack-a-mole, fight them back, and it never ends.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about science. Bob, what is quantum superiority? What is that? What does it mean?
It's quantum supremacy.
Oh, quantum supremacy.
Okay.
Superiority, supremacy.
That'll be next
Okay.
week. We'll talk about.
So yeah, this is cool, guys. Google announced a new quantum computer chip called Bristlecone.
Bristlecone?
Bristlecone, because of the architecture, is kind of like a bristlecone. That has,
All right.
wait for it, 72 qubits.
That's a lot.
You should be impressed. Yes,
I
that's a
am
lot.
Very biblical.
And they say that this puts the company on the pathway to achieving quantum supremacy, which is just an awesome term, which I'm not going to define yet. So we've talked about quantum computers on the show, right? It's been a little bit of a while though.
Yeah.
But big companies. If you're a big tech company, you are probably looking at quantum computers as the next huge revolution in computing technology. I mean, there's been lots of advances in computing, but this is such a fundamental shift in the architecture that it's huge, and everyone wants in on it. So
It's going to be like the hydrogen economy. I mean, it's just going to overwhelm everything.
well, but it's
Or
surprisingly.
that Segway, that's going to transform city.
Do
Everyone will
not
have a
compare
segue.
quantum computers to a Segway, please.
Bob, real
disc
quick.
will redefine.
Every time someone becomes a patron, there's an audio sound that's happening on our feed.
Oh, is that what's happening? Is that what I'm hearing?
Beep.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Right? What's the sound?
I'm on here. Beep, 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 beep.
Ooh,
That's it. Okay.
some kind of
It's like a bird
Very
squeak.
cool.
or something.
strangled chicken or something.
Well,
Sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
It's all right.
one might.
So-
never mind.
So, as many of you are probably aware, the reason why it's so revolutionary is something called a qubit, and that stands for quantum bit. It's a portmanteau. Qubit is a portmanteau.
Quantum bit.
Yes, quantum bit, qubit. So that's obviously.
Is there a dash in it?
Is
Q
it-
dash bit?
So that's obviously a play on words with an old binary bit, right? 0 and 1 for a classical computer. Everyone knows about the binary bits. Everything at its lowest level, it's a 0 or a 1. But a qubit is a 0 or a 1, or a kind of superposition of both of them, and that's what makes this thing really special. That's actually called. This is a new. I hadn't heard this term before. Super dense coding. Because it can hold so much information, and that is the reason why every qubit that you add to a system, you're increasing its power, its computing power exponentially.
Yeah.
So when we go,
Is it just 3 though? It's just 3 states? I thought it was like 12,
No, it's everything
12
in
states
between.
or something.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it actually depends on where you actually. I've read various descriptions, but it's basically it's a 0 or 1 or a superposition of either of those. So it's not just one or the other. So it's actually I was reading in an engineering magazine today. It's actually holding 2 classical bits in 1 bit, and that's a huge advantage. So let's see. So what can you do? What can you do with this stuff? It's like What's so important about a quantum computer? Well, I mean, some of the things they're talking about is using it to break military-grade encryption very, very quickly. And so instead of taking 10,000 years, your computer could eventually do this in an afternoon or far less. I mean, that's one of the possibilities. Another possibility I read today, which I want to explore, because it said that you could have a sub, like a nuclear sub, that is cloaked under the water for 3 months at a time, undetectable. And it's also there's a possibility for really secure communication. So there's plenty of awesome things, revolutionary things.
Isn't just at its fundamental thing that it's just a more efficient use of data points, of bits, right?
It's in one way, but it's also the key, and the key. I guess I'll expose it now. The key to the whole thing with quantum supremacy is that they want to get to the point where these quantum computers can do things that a classical computer can never do. Just never do. It'll never be able to do these certain classes of problems, and that's what makes it such a big advantage. But until you get up to that critical threshold of qubits, you're not going to have a machine that's going to be very special until you cross that threshold and start doing things that are really almost magical, which I hesitate to use that word. Like I said, the breaking encryption that would take a supercomputer a millennium to do. A quantum computer theoretically could do it very, very quickly.
Like a sonic screwdriver, pretty much instantly.
In a lot of ways. I just saw a great Doctor Who episode. All right. So you can't get me off on a tangent.
In essence, you're saying it's got like insane amount of raw processing power.
In a way, but you're not going to run
It's
Windows.
not just that.
You're not going to run Windows. You're not going to have your quantum computer doing Windows and banal stuff like that. This is going to have
solve
special
problems in different ways, and if you have the right kind of problem to a quantum computer, it could solve it like orders of magnitude faster.
Right, like the traveling salesman. Have you heard of that? Do you know that mathematical problem? That's things like that. It'll be able to do amazing things. So. But there's a big problem with quantum computers. And it's called quantum decoherence, right? When a quantum system, a literally magical system, interacts with the environment, then there's no longer a superposition. It's going to be like a 0 or a 1 type of thing.
Once you see the cat, it's
right. So that decoherence is the bane of the existence of quantum computers, because you have all these little quantum systems, all these little qubits. And you don't want them to interact with the environment, because if they do, then you've got errors. Your computer is going to blue screen. So they've got to do crazy stuff. Like the computer needs to be at the millikelvin, thousandth of a degree above absolute 0. It's got to be completely shielded from the environment, kind of like LIGO has to be shielded in such a way that the lasers are not disrupted, so that you can discern a signal that's smaller than the width of a proton. So it's got to be like LIGO. If there are wolves walking in the backyard of the building, they got to know it and they got to cancel it out. So this is kind of like how sensitive these machines have to be, and even today, to this day, with advanced quantum systems that we have, the best they can do is 100 microseconds. They can preserve this very delicate state for 100 microseconds, and then that's it. Then it kind of collapses, and so you've got to do your work within that tiny time span. So we're still at the early stages. So Google made this announcement. They have this new processor, the bristlecone, and the chip is actually being used right now at their lab. You know what the lab is? Google's Quantum AI Lab. Who would want to work in a place called, I work at Google's Quantum AI Lab? I mean, come on, that's awesome. What an awesome name. And like I said, it's got 72 qubits. Now, people have been saying for a while that to achieve quantum supremacy, where your quantum computer can defeat any supercomputer and achieve things that they would never achieve, you would need 49 qubits. So this one's got 72. But we think that 49 isn't really.
But mine
isn't really
goes to 11.
11. So
11s.
they actually did some simulations with computers, and they think that you may need to have 100 qubits before you achieve this level of quantum supremacy. So Google is saying that they're not going to achieve quantum supremacy with the 72 qubit Bristlecone processor, but they're using it as a test bed. And so they said, let's see, the purpose of Bristlecone is to provide its researchers with a testbed for research into system error rates and scalability of our qubit technology, as well as applications in quantum simulation, optimization, and machine learning. So what they're doing is they're using this to get you need to get those errors like that I talked about. You need to get those errors down really, really low because if you don't get them that low, then you're not going to achieve quantum supremacy. All the qubits in the world aren't going to help you if they're always blue screening or erroring out all the time. So even with a massive amount of qubits, 72, they still don't think that they want to test this to in such a way that the next iteration of this chip, Bristlecone 2.0, will have possibly 100 qubits, and the errors will be so low that it can really achieve quantum supremacy, and that's when we're going to see some amazing stuff.
5 to 10
Why
years.
does this feel like? Why does this feel like a fusion reactor? Why does this feel like a like the
cold fusion
quantum? Not even cold fusion, just like a regular.
Yeah.
They keep talking about, oh yeah, we're getting these advances. It's amazing. It's amazing. We got the thing, and the magnetic fields are keeping the plasma in place, and it's going to be. And it's like my whole educational career since I was in middle school. It's been like, oh, it's going to be so great. It's going to be so great.
Yeah.
35 years have gone by.
I know.
This feels like that a little bit.
Bob.
It tells you. It just goes to tell you what an amazingly complex engineering problem this is.
Sure.
But it's worth. It's not breaking the laws of physics here. I mean,
Right,
we are made
right.
of quantum systems. I mean, this stuff exists, and
It just seems like such a wall to get over. Like
Sure it is. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, so was going to the moon. I mean, that was a
Bob,
hell of
I
a
hold
wall
you
too.
I think the moon is like so much simpler.
more achievable.
Really, I mean,
It is.
if you could do it in 1970s technology, that's cake
Right.
compared to having to have a system that's at 1 degree Kelvin.
So delicate.
that can't
so
that can't have gnat farts next
Far
to
less
it.
than a degree. Far less than a
Yeah.
degree. Yeah, it's this. I mean, this is tough. This is such an incredibly sensitive system that they're trying to create and then maintain to
Right.
do the computing. It's so sensitive.
I think I dated a girl like that.
If you just did that, it would crash the computer. I mean,
I got married one.
on that note,
All right, well, they're getting there.
No,
Keep
it
working, guys.
is one of those things that it's cool and it could, the applications would be immense, but there are significant technological hurdles, and we never know if there's going to be 30 years, 50 years. We don't know
Right.
what it's really going to take. So we just have to. It's interesting to keep an eye on it.
You have to have a company in place like a Google or an
Yeah.
Alphabet
Right.
in order to
Or
even
government.
get
An
to this
IBM.
point. And how many of those are in the world?
Yeah.
And,
Well, that's why we're lucky that Google is around.
But it's like going to Mars too. That's like one of those things. I think I have a feeling we're going to be talking about that a lot before it
Yep.
actually ever happens.
Yeah.
moon first. Moon first.
Yeah.
Definitely moon first. Moon first.
Let's do one of the first look back at 5 to 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, almost to the month, we talked about nanowires. You guys remember that? Batteries that use nanowires as their electrodes. I remember this.
I'm not going to
news
remember
item.
any of
I
this.
barely.
I wasn't.
Don't worry, I barely remember that too.
So
But it has nano in it, I'm
lithium-ion
surprised.
batteries use a graphite anode, right? So that's where the electricity is coming in and out, right? And the nanowire anodes, however, would, because I have a picture, but because they have so much surface area, they could store a lot more energy, right? So like here's what we're talking about, right? So these nanowires. So lots of surface area. And so 10 years ago, we covered a news item where a team came up with a prototype of a lithium-ion battery using a silicon nanowire cathode, I believe, might have been an anode, one of the two electrodes. And they said, again, it was one of those typical battery stories where 10 times the storage capacity of what was then the state of the art for lithium-ion batteries. They've obviously improved since then. But a tenfold order of magnitude improvement, that would be like having an electric car that could go 2,000 miles.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
What?
About a
I want
game
that.
changer.
Or just that the battery's a lot cheaper. So,
Right.
and they were saying like, yeah, if this could be scaled up and manufactured and blah, 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 we can have something, you know, but this was 10 years ago. So like, okay, so where's the nanowire battery today?
Yeah.
There's been several more publications looking at nanowire batteries.
Really?
It's definitely a thing. The ones that I saw in the last like 5 or so years are talking about, so the other feature is not just the increased capacity, but they could also have faster charge and discharge, but also the number of charge-discharge cycles increased by orders of magnitude.
Oh, wow.
So they're talking about almost an unlimited battery that won't wear out over time, like millions of cycles.
Sounds good to me.
So we're talking about this like it's really exciting that the future still holds this.
Yeah, so the problem is...
Right. That was 10 years ago.
10 years have gone by, there is still no commercially available nanowire battery.
None.
Yeah, so we're not there yet. 10 years, it's still in the prototype laboratory phase, and we just never know if it's going to get out of it. I mean, so theoretically, using the nanowire electrodes can potentially dramatically improve the key features, and not just like a totally new battery, but just like it's still a lithium-ion battery. It's just you're
Super
just swapping
efficient.
out the electrode, and it makes it a lot more efficient. And but it just hasn't hit the market.
So 10 years that poor rabbit's been hitting that
Yeah.
drum, just pounding
Yeah.
away, waiting,
Yeah.
waiting.
What technical achievements have they had in the past decade? This is just
So
small
batteries,
incremental stuff?
Yeah, so battery improvements, just like solar panels, it's all the steady incremental improvement. And then you think, like I was expecting like, okay, this just became part of the background incremental improvement. But they actually haven't even hit yet. But I'm expecting that when it does, it will be maybe an especially big incremental improvement, but
Hey guys, people that are listening to the feed are saying they think our cell phones might be interfering with the audio, so put your cell phones on airplane mode.
Okay.
And let us know if the feed gets better, guys, if you don't mind.
Yeah, not that there isn't a million other electronic things in
Yeah.
So, Evan,
Yes.
why is Putin so interested in, here, let me pull up the
Oh
picture.
boy, you're going to put up a picture of this one?
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
in magic deer blood. Where is it?
because
What?
it's magic. Magic
this
is in
it?
the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
Caribou.
So this came across the newswire a couple days ago. CNN prominently reported on this, as had other outlets, that Russian President Vladimir Putin is one of many Russians who have consumed and bathed in blood from the severed antlers of Siberian red deer. Now, why?
a
Why
witch.
would
That's so
you do that?
sad.
He's a witch.
Well, clearly, here's the reason why. Because bathers believe that the blood gives them strength and stops the aging process.
Yes,
Yes.
clearly.
Yes. Scientific proof, right?
What year is this?
Exactly. It has been going on for many hundreds of years. And in fact, there's an entire industry around this.
Yeah.
It's not just the blood bathing that.
Does it kill the animal?
No, it does. No, it doesn't kill the animal.
Well, it's something.
The antler grows back at, they say, a pretty fast rate. They'll keep the animals alive for many decades, and they'll be able to saw off the antlers about 15 times over the course of a life of any one of these
Yeah.
deers. There are entire farms with thousands of these
Oh, it's
deer.
like an industry.
Oh, it is an
Yeah.
industry.
That's terrible.
that most
Does it
certainly-
hurt?
They say yes. Animal rights groups believe that the sawing off, because they don't anesthetize these animals
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
It's
Well, that would poison
they
the blood.
equate it to severing a limb.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because apparently if there's blood flow in the antler, then that blood is feeding a lot of tissue, and there's probably nerves and other things within those antlers that are being affected by that.
One of the people who runs one of these farms says, of course it's not a drug, it's more of a supplement. It makes our immune system strong, heals the body, and gives us great strength, men's libido in particular.
Of course.
Where have we heard that before?
Yeah.
Cutting off of animal parts for all this crazy ideas that it gives you some sort of healing properties or strength or anything else.
And Putin is all in, huh?
All in, definitely.
Terrible.
As are many Russians, apparently, who have grown up in these parts of Russia, Siberia, and it's normal in a
Yeah.
sense. It's accepted that this is.
Have you ever heard of this, George?
Caribou blood? No, not dunking, and not that. No, we have some nasty food at Easter, but nothing quite like that. That's it's the weird like macho.
Yeah.
It's almost secondary of like whether it works or not. It probably doesn't even matter because it's just I bathe in
Deer blood. Yeah.
You know, come on.
They also market it to women. Treatments are said to offer benefits for age reversal, of course, and lowering stress and improving the complexion. And I know we talked about a story a few years ago in which a model bathed in pig's blood, and that also made the news. And for that very reason, because she felt it was good for her complexion.
There's definitely something about blood. Like blood has the essence, right?
Yeah.
And so there's now a growing trend in, I don't know if it's specifically the Hollywood types, but for drinking or getting infusions of blood from young people. Have you guys heard about this?
A little vampirism.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Does it work?
They think that there's something in the blood of a young person that will rejuvenate them. But no, it doesn't work. But it's, it's the idea that you're going to get some kind of the essence of life or youth or vitality from blood. It's just embedded in the culture.
And at least they're putting the blood into their own vessels.
Right.
Like they're
system.
actually getting whatever is in the blood and it's going into their blood. Whereas the weirdest thing to me has always been this idea. I was just talking about this with my best friend today, where like if you go to like the store where they sell the beauty supplies, right? There's so much woo in those stores. And it's like, oh, it's a jar of collagen. Somehow if I put the collagen on top of my face, it's going to make my own collagen work better. There's all this stuff where it's like, if I eat it or I bathe in it or I like wash my hair in it, it will infuse me. That's not how biology works.
Right. And Kara, that's why we created the Patreon, because you can become a cyborg. You can become a biopunk, which is a
Metacog.
These are proven levels that you can achieve. Very little investment.
No blood involved.
Actually, almost free.
Bloodless. Absolutely bloodless.
Puts the lotion in the skin.
What were you going to say, Jim?
No, I always wonder at what point does a person who is bathing in caribou blood or who is spreading collagen on their face, like, what's the line where they go, oh, well, that's ridiculous, that wouldn't work? What's the point where they go like, okay, it's caribou blood or it's iguana piss, but you have to stick it in your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. That's crazy. I wouldn't do that.
But that blood.
What's the line?
That'd be a great experiment.
What point? Some people, I'm sure, would be totally credulous if it's presented.
line.
Yeah, I think it depends on the power of the anecdote attached to it.
Sure. Sure. But what is Putin's sort of like? That's too much. I just put a potato up my ass. No, I'm not going to do it. No,
I think it just depends on how badass he looks while he's doing
seriously, right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I don't think he'd go in for the potato up the ass, personally.
Hey, I'm not going to argue with a witch. That's
yam, maybe.
A yam.
Hey, we didn't bring up Stephen Hawking, so we mentioned.
Oh yes.
We had a pretty long discussion about Professor Hawking on the show yesterday. That this show will be coming out Saturday, but I didn't want the episode. To
You
go
guys
by.
recorded a show yesterday?
Yeah.
Last night?
Yeah.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is totally extra.
Totally extra. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so our patrons actually are going to get one of these a month. We're going to do a free.
Not
Sign up
3
anyway.
hours.
Sign up anyway.
No, it won't be a
honestly.
3-hour show, but it'll be. And I want to start taking some questions too, guys. If you have any that you've saved up.
I do too.
But I didn't want this show to go by without bringing up Professor Hawking. He passed away early yesterday morning, on the 14th.
Einstein's birthday.
Yes.
Yep.
Einstein's birthday.
Pi Day.
And this was a very special person. He, not only did he have massive contributions to science, but he was as an individual, from what I'm reading online and people that knew him, he was a tender, loving, funny, in a weird way. It's hard to think of him as outgoing, but he was a very outgoing individual.
Very funny, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the John Oliver interview that he had?
No.
John Oliver did.
No, I haven't seen it
I think it was
yet.
like last year, or maybe a year and a half ago. And Oliver says to him, "Is there in your theory of infinite universes, is it possible that there's a universe where I'm smarter than you?" And Hawking says, yes. and there's also a possibility there's a universe where you're funny.
Oh my God.
So John
his
just like,
sense of humor.
okay, just got totally served
very,
by,
very
the machine voice. It's great.
Yeah.
Let alone like when he was on Star Trek, that one episode where he's
Yeah.
playing cards.
I love that.
You know,
The
and
only-
Newton starts talking about it. He's like, well,
Not the
only
apples.
not the Apple story again. You know, it's just great.
The only person on Star Trek to play himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that
That's
true?
a
Yes.
great honor.
That's a good quiz question. Oh my gosh.
I remember his line from The Simpsons when they tried to create the Council of Geniuses.
Yeah, so the
He said,
perfect
your
society.
utopia turned into a fruitopia.
I like when he tries to fly away and he hits the button and brushes his teeth. He's like, oh, wrong button, wrong button. And the helicopter starts out. It's the wrong button. It's Tar Lisa.
Futurama is part of a group that tries to capture Fry, and he uses his robotic voice. There he is, get him. And Fry looks around. Who said that? It was obviously Stephen Hawking's voice. Who said that? So good.
So Hawking was a great science communicator. You know, A Brief History of Time made him famous, and deservedly so. That was a fantastic science book. Really, one of my favorite science books that I've
Sold
ever read.
10 million copies.
Yeah.
And selling more now.
He was supposed
back
to
on
live
the-
for 2
back on the
years. They
bestseller
said you're going to
list
live, and when he was diagnosed in 65, whatever it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
they said like, you're going to
But
live
all
2
right,
years.
listen, I've diagnosed people with ALS, right? So it's not like you're going to live for two years. That's the mean survival from time of diagnosis is 2.5 years. So that's what we tell patients. Not you're going to live for 2.5
Right.
years, but that's the whatever
Okay.
I mean. But it's a bell curve, and that bell curve has a wide tail. And when you're young at onset, it's actually not 2.5 years. So that number is actually incorrect. The younger you are, the longer your survival from the time of diagnosis.
Okay.
And he was
But
diagnosed
also,
very
this
young.
diagnosis was how long ago? Like, have survival rates really improved since then?
Not really. A little
okay.
bit. Not really, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But
All right, screw him. You're right. Fuck it. Yeah.
no, but the thing is, but yes, he survived way longer than would be typical, even for somebody diagnosed at his age.
Right.
So he's at the long end of the tail. And
Right.
the thing is, ALS isn't one disease. We know it's not one disease. It's a collection of diseases.
Oh, really?
The only thing is, if your upper and lower motor neurons are dying, you have ALS. So it's defined by the effect, not the cause, right? And so there could be multiple
see.
causes.
Okay.
And then there's a lot of that in neurology. The disease is defined by the cells that are dying, and not necessarily what's causing the cells to die, because we don't know. Or there's multiple things. So we know that with ALS, and that's going to be the case. Like, this is typical. This is the average, but we don't really know in an individual case. And the best predictor of how you're going to progress is how you have progressed. So he was just slow his whole life, and that pattern held up.
And so it wasn't a case of remission?
No, there is no remission.
There's no
He
remission.
continued
No,
to get
worse. He got worse.
He got worse. It was just really slow.
And also, he was incredibly loved, incredibly famous, at the bleeding edge, really, of a lot of this. The best minds in the world worked on his speech technology, the best minds in the world. He had access to amazing medical care. He chose to get the trach.
Yeah, that's the other
means
thing.
that
In 1985, so only 20 years later, he got trached. That's considered, in which we talked about on the show yesterday, that's the same as dying with ALS in terms of prognosis. Because if you could take anybody with ALS, and if you trach them, and you take really exquisite care of them, you can keep them alive indefinitely. It's when we say 2.5 years, that's to death or trach. It's really not, right? That's to death or trach. Yeah.
because once you have the it's like, but if you don't get the trach, you can't.
Because you die because you stop breathing.
You stop breathing,
Yeah.
but once you have the trach, you do require 100% round-the-clock care. You can't.
trach,
you're
yeah.
at the point where you can't breathe on your own anymore.
Gosh.
Well, you need a ventilator, and ventilators need to be managed.
Yep.
Yeah.
How has
And I
it-
mean, he obviously was fed. He was, everything was taking it. His colostomy was taking it. Everything. So all he could do was twitch his cheek. In terms of all he could do muscularly was twitch his cheek.
he could
couldn't do anything for himself on his own besides everything that's internal, which that's the thing we've talked about with ALS a lot on the show previously. It doesn't affect your ability to feel. It only affects your
Right.
ability to move.
It's just motor nerves. Yeah, that's it. Just motor neurons.
How has treatment improved or over the?
I mean, no dramatic change. So there's a
Yeah.
couple of drugs which slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then caring for patients with ALS has improved incrementally over the years. We're in terms of managing their respiratory function, managing their nutrition, things like that. But the basic prognosis has not changed.
But in terms of determining what's causing it, it's still...
Oh, we've made tremendous progress, but we're still not at the point where we could say. And again, we know, all right, there's familial ALS where it's this mutation or there's other mutations. Sporadic ALS, we know some risk factors. We're tracking down what's happening. But in terms of why this person has it and that person doesn't, we really don't know.
So you can't predict necessarily from a genetic standpoint, or
well, there's familial ALS, so yes,
so you could say with
have the
certainty
gene.
that
It's a gene.
Okay.
And, yeah.
You're
And,
gonna
Time
get
to
it when
CRISPR
you're-
that one away.
Whatever. Yeah.
and but if it's sporadic ALS, meaning there's no family history,
Right.
we have no idea.
It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All right, listener questions.
Oh.
I'll fire these off at you guys.
All
So a lot of people are asking about your banana plants. They want
Yes.
to know, how are they?
My
what happened
cat,
to
my
them?
cat's pissed on them. That's what happened to them.
Cat piss.
Didn't see that coming.
See, George, they don't care. Those damn cats.
So
All right, the ammonia
I mean,
in
they're
your
still
urine
alive.
did it
They're
wonders.
just chugging along.
Yeah,
I
the
think-
cats are still alive, luckily. 'Cause I tried to kill my bastards.
So I think I'm going to have to reboot my banana.
Or just let it go,
No.
man. It does. It's Steve. You're not going to grow bananas.
Banana
I'm
plant.
going to do it, damn it.
Banana
I'm going to say, do
2.0.
you want to eat an ice cream
I
banana?
do. But I'm going to go to Florida.
Is there only
I'm going to
chance?
go visit
Can't you go
Dr.
somewhere
That's the
and
easy
have
way.
illusion
And have,
Easy way.
Yeah, Alan,
Right.
come on, send us the
That's
banana.
right. Yeah, Alan, go send us some.
Here
bananas.
goes.
Here's
Okay.
what you got to do, Steve. You got to get a plant that actually grows bananas.
So I found.
Oh, Roberto for the save.
A Japanese company genetically modified a banana plant that grows Gros-Michel bananas in cold climates. And we could get one for $10,000.
10 grand.
What
I
level of
smell another
Patreon?
fundraiser.
You gotta have a Patreon
Fly to
level.
Florida, eat those bananas until we
But
puke.
Jay, I can grow Michelle bananas in Connecticut. We can grow them in Connecticut.
You can have your own industry.
No. No.
Yes.
Stop.
10 grand is a lot of flights to Florida.
All right, next question.
The price will come down.
Where did you get the Star Trek set? Build it yourselves?
Yes,
We built it ourselves.
we built it ourselves. We had help, from
Yeah.
carpenters, but
We had a professional carpenter actually help us build
Who designed it?
the console. We did.
we did. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
It's obviously based on the Star Trek
And then,
the original series.
And then we had another internet friend build, and a listener of the show build the
The wall
station?
Yeah, the
Green,
tube.
yeah.
The
Yep.
tubes.
Oh, yeah.
The,
You think those videos will ever see the light of day, Jay?
which one?
Bob designed the
Tests
lights, the
we
flashy
did as-
lights.
Well, we built the set for
Oh,
Jay.
yeah.
We
So-
originally built this set for a different purpose.
Yeah, well, we built the set for the 24-hour show.
That was the original thing.
Yeah.
But then after that,
Yeah, so
we came up with the
if you
idea.
watch our Patreon video, you'll see a snippet
Yeah.
of where Steve
2
says, an
seconds.
SGU TV show, and then I cut in a snippet of a test show that we did. It was a science fiction review show, but the first 2 minutes of every review show was 2 minutes of us doing a science fiction show,
from the bridge.
where we were, we have a whole story, a whole backstory here.
Mystery Science kind of
boy.
sort of.
Yeah, we were on some spaceship, and there was it was a fun story.
It was fun.
And I would like to do, Evan, yes, I would like to do it all.
I agree.
What was the name of that show?
Should
Did you have-
rekindle
did you have a name?
Captain's chair.
Captain's Chair. So it's
Captain's
movie
Chair.
reviews, but with a little bit of a story.
Yeah.
Nice.
in the
As
beginning.
characters,
Yeah.
sort of.
So yes, we built.
It
the
got
set.
out of control, George.
I did.
I remember you guys recorded a few.
Yeah, we recorded a
And
few.
you
The
even
reviews
asked
were
if I wanted
fun.
to come and do one.
Yeah, we
I had a character ready. I was ready.
Yeah, I had you. Yeah, I had you. Yeah.
Green, did
I
it
was
have
I was going to be the
antennae?
janitor, like the space janitor.
No.
I was all
That's
yeah, I was all set.
See, my
The
idea.
story was really good.
Yeah.
I still
It was
want
a
to
good
use that story in some.
Okay.
We actually have somebody who wants to make it into a comic book.
Yeah,
What
we're
happened
gonna
with
do
that
it.
guy?
No,
Good
I'm
idea.
still Miles. I still talk to Miles all the
Yeah,
time.
we gotta get because
We
the
need
story
money.
was
We can't
great.
do it without money.
So-
Karen,
but what
before
happened?
we knew you, hold on, I got to say,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Post-production.
We had you. We interviewed you once. Then we came up with the show, and I was thinking of we wanted the person like our admiral to be a
Okay.
woman, and we wanted you to be
Yes.
the admiral. And you were only
Fleet
thing that you were going to
commander.
do is. Every other show, you were just going to pop on one of the screens and yell at us.
Totally chew
Well, I
us
can
out.
definitely. I have time in my schedule for that.
Yeah, so
I can afford that. Yeah.
we really could do it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no. So what happened? Yeah. So like you recorded 3 or 4 of these, or what?
Yeah,
no, more than that, I think.
have it
Couldn't
all.
get the post production done.
Yeah, it was too much post production. Way too much
It's
work.
a lot of work, guys, making a TV show.
Oh yeah.
So let's get to our Patreon goals. We can talk about our goals. We haven't
let's
talked
do it.
about them yet.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Where are we number-wise? How are
Yeah,
we?
let's
by
take
the
a
way?
look.
969 last
Roll
I
that,
saw.
roll that number. Fred,
I think it's
show
higher
us.
now. Yeah, it's way higher.
Refreshing.
Come on, baby.
986. Ooh, nice.
Wow, fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Way.
So
14 more. Wake your family.
goals. So we're going to do stuff. All right, here we go.
We're going to do stuff.
So yeah, if we get to 1,000, we get to replace the lights that were destroyed in the flood. And then we definitely we need some more tech upgrades. But the big ones come in at 5,000. That's when we get to hire Jay. And then at 6,000, we're going to get new microphones. At 7,000, I'm going to do I've been writing this for a while, but I want to do a single topic video series. It's like, all right, let's talk about pareidolia and do like the definitive treatment of pareidolia.
Yeah, and so this is
cool.
going to be a talking head video.
Talking
Steve,
head.
And it's going to be the thing. The intention of this video is.
You may ask yourself, what is pareidolia?
That's right. I love that. You could take this video and you can send it to someone on the internet and go, here's the answer to pareidolia.
Yeah.
Here's the answer to flat Earth theory.
Yeah.
Here's the answer to whatever it is. Like we're going to do,
Right.
you do hundreds of them.
All right, at 8,000, this took a little bit of arm turning for me to convince the other rogues to do this. We're going to do a marathon live streaming event to celebrate getting to 8,000.
Yes.
I want to do 24 hours. I want to just use
Marathon.
another straight up
Another
24 hour
24 hours.
thank you marathon.
Do it.
Do it. I'm in.
Oh my God.
All right, at 9,000, we have to hire another employee. All right, at 10,000, create a pilot for a skeptically themed TV show based on the SGU. Now, some people are, thought this was going to be like our web TV shows. No, we're not talking about like Ock or the Ghost Show that you did with us. Those are fun. Those are fun little videos. But we're talking about like writing a show intended to be on either cable or network television, and that
Netflix,
is, or
something like
Netflix or whatever, based on what we do. And we're going to hire a professional company to do it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to, Don't worry. We're not
That's why it's the 10,000.
That's why it's the 10,000
Yeah,
because we will spend the $100,000 that it will take to hire a professional company to make a pilot for this series,
Yeah.
and then shop it around. And the reason why we need to fund it is because that's the only way we'll have the creative control to have an actually skeptically themed show. Because otherwise, you get to the executives who are like, yeah, every third show the paranormal thing is going to be real, right?
So you guys, just as a frame of reference, you guys get approached all the time with these kinds of programs where,
I know you do too, George.
yeah, what if it was real? And you kind of be like, no. And they go, okay, bye. And it's like, that's the conversation.
So infuriating.
listened to any of our
This
shows?
is my day job, right?
Yeah.
So I
right.
am a television presenter. That's what I do. That's how I mostly pay the bills. I do my podcast. I do SGU. I give talks and stuff. But like, really, I pay the bills with my TV work, and I work on National Geographic, and I work on Netflix and all that. And so I go to meetings constantly. I have an agent. My agent takes me out. I'm always sitting down with network executives who are at various stages, whether they're early in development or after show's already been made and they're casting it. And I can't tell you how often I have to have that conversation in the room, which is just that, like, I don't want to be the token skeptic on the show where they go, is Bigfoot real? Is Bigfoot not real? This Bigfoot guy says he's real. Kara says he's not real. And then at the end, they turn and say,
Kara sucks.
you decide. Like, that's the thing that's so frustrating.
What is the truth?
You decide show, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And there's so
We don't
many
know.
of
That's
them
always
like
what it gets down to. The producer, when we're in, we just had one not too long ago, and they came to us. They contacted us. Said, we want to do this show. We're thinking of like a paranormal investigation roadshow, And I go, all right, fine. So I said, you realize that we have an existing brand, and like we're not going to deviate from that, right? And like, oh yeah, you guys do your science thing. But they said the magic words. We're like, all right, I told these guys it's not going to happen. Don't get your hopes up. They said, we're going to let the audience decide. That's the code for it's going to be a gullible presentation.
Well, it means that they're going to show two sides of the coin. I mean, there isn't.
False equivalency. That's the false equivalency buzzword.
Yeah.
We're going to let the audience decide. No, we're not going to let them decide. We're going to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. And so, of course, that's why we need to
That's why
fund
you
it
got to pay
ourselves.
for it yourself. Right.
Yeah, and it's not just with shows where there is that false equivalence. I think I've mentioned this on the show before. I pitched a dinosaur show once. It was about dinosaurs, legitimate dinosaurs, and
Like
going
the
out in the field and
Parasaurolophus?
digging. What?
Like the Parasaurolophus?
Yes, like the
Right, Jay?
Parasaurolophus.
Is that your
Jay.
favorite dinosaur? Parasaurolophus?
Para what now?
Parasaurolophus.
Oh, you got it.
You got it. You got it.
Hey.
Oh, Killer just
That's
said
worth
it.
2 pages right there. Come on.
Awesome.
So I'm developing this show, and I'm working with the production company, and they're really wonderful, and we're really working hard to figure out what is each episode and how we're going to film it and packaging it and all of that. And we're sitting before the network executive, and I won't mention what network it is, and they literally said to me, "This sounds really great. I love the episode about how they had sex. I love the episode about how they ate. I love the episode about lifestyle, or development over the lifespan, you know, how big they were, how small they were. What if we did an episode where we posed the question, is there still a dinosaur maybe living in the Amazon?"
What?
Yeah.
And I was like, this,
Loch Ness.
after all this work, this is what you want on your network?
Right.
Yeah.
This is what we deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to fight against that, and sometimes
See,
that
this is
means
Kara-
finding your own content.
This is connected to the same thing that drives fake news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same engine. It's the same
Yeah.
human thing that's going on.
There's
there.
this, I like to call it cultural saturation
Yeah.
of the woo or the
Yeah.
paranormal or pseudoscience. It is so deeply, deeply saturated in the culture. People take these things as absolutely like breathing, like
Yeah.
it's anything else. It must be, don't even give it a second thought.
Or is it also the idea that you have to add to reality to make it interesting?
Right.
And that the story isn't enough. And
It's lazy.
Yeah,
it's a lazy
it
thing.
is.
Yeah, and it's this mis idea of like, no, okay, like science is cool, it's great, but we gotta jazz it up a little bit, and we'll jazz it up with a little fake thing here, a little exaggeration here. Whereas if you can present information in an interesting way, it's enough.
Yeah.
And you look at Cosmos, you look at the guys that are really good at
Yeah. I
doing
was going to say, the people who are good at it know how to do that.
Exactly.
But that's the thing, like Sagan, I was mesmerized by Cosmos when I was younger.
Absolutely.
That was mesmerized. And that's because he just said things and presented them in such a way that you were like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. And so did
He was
Hawking.
excited. And he didn't
Yeah.
have to make up stuff about aliens
No.
or about abductions or about Bigfoot or
It's
whatever.
cheap and insulting. I hate it, right? But that's
I think that's a production error of just like, no, let
is.
us.
It
let
really
us.
comes down to the powers that be.
Sure.
Who's ultimately in charge of that green light? It's somebody who's desperately afraid to lose their job.
Right.
It's somebody who is so conflict, or I should say risk averse, that they want to make something that's derivative of something else that they
Yes.
knew did well in the past.
Yeah.
Trying something new is very scary, but also it's this massive underestimation of the intelligence
Yes.
of the American audience.
Right. And it kills me because if you look at all of the things, the shows that have become wildly, surprisingly popular over the last 10 years, they're all the most intelligently written shows.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
And still, like 6 Feet Under. 6 Feet Under was a great show, or Breaking Bad, right? Breaking Bad was a great hit.
Or The Wire.
You're The Wire.
Very smart.
Yeah. These shows that were very intelligently written did not insult the intelligence of the audience. And still the executives are puzzled over, oh, we have to do a show about drug dealers. No, you don't have to do a show about drug dealers. You have to do a show that's intelligently written. That's the common thread throughout all of these
But
wildly
Steve,
popular shows.
It's happening now.
But I know, but the audiences are obviously hungry for just good writing.
Yeah.
That's what we want. Not
Look
the,
at Netflix, and it's like,
it doesn't. It could be about anything. It could be about anything. It's just the writing is good. It'll be good.
I really believe that the channels are catching on. They
I
really
hope
are.
so.
They really are. I mean, look at we're seeing it happen before our eyes. I mean, TV
Yeah.
is in its heyday now. There's never been better TV
Oh, God,
ever.
there's so much of it, too.
Well, I think both things are happening. That's true. But then there's also reality TV, which is still, I think a lot of it is utter crap. And it's
The good news is
The
people are
cheap-
moving away from conflict reality as a genre because it's not doing as well anymore.
Yeah.
So
It's
really
inexpensive.
the people that are
boring.
in development right now don't want as much conflict reality, which is great.
Yeah.
Look at, Black Panther.
Yeah.
Here's this thing that like, oh no, we can't have black superheroes. Like black superheroes don't
yeah?
go international, and
Yeah.
it's like $1 billion to say you're wrong.
Right.
I have 1 billion reasons that say you're wrong. It's like,
Well, and before that, what about Hidden Figures? People thought Hidden Figures was
Sure.
going to be
Yeah.
a small indie, like didn't do well.
Absolutely.
It was a movie about black women doing
Scientists
math.
doing math. Yeah.
Like 3 things that nobody thought would do
$100
well.
million
and it,
movie.
did
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
The only thing that TV and Hollywood executives should be sure of at this point is that they have no effing idea what's going to be a success, and they might as well do good quality.
try everything.
Yeah,
And they
go
make
for
it
the
good.
quality, yes.
Right.
A few more quick questions from the audience. So, people wanted to know, how long does it take for you to do your show, George?
It's similar in that I'm constantly sort of trying to think of stuff to talk about. I'm fortunate in that my show is so much broader that I can talk about anything.
Yeah.
So if I want to talk about brushing my teeth for 20 minutes, like I can do that. If I experience something at the mall that's weird, or if I'm at a gig that sort of is and a story happens, I can.
Those are the best
I
bits
love
on your
those.
show.
I know, yeah, I mean, that's,
I loved your
So
bit, like you
good.
talk about something, they fixed a door or something on your garage, and so you had built up this instinct about, like,
Oh yeah, so but right, yeah, like
and then when it changed, you kept hitting right into the
yeah,
door.
yeah. So you get to this point where you know the rhythm of the door that you can just kick it because the hammer part that goes into
Yeah.
the thing was busted for 12 years, you know, and then one day they fix it, and so you're walking with your groceries and you kick the door and you just slam into the door, and I continued to do that for like a month. It never, yeah, because the programming is
Right.
written that just when you're on the first floor and the door's blue, you just kick it open. It's just
Yeah.
like it was a month of Jerry Lewis taking his
So
groceries.
we
home.
have no counters in our kitchen right now because our kitchen
Oh,
has been largely
that's right.
gutted. And Julia just came home from college, and she keeps trying to put things down on non-existent counters, like without even.
We're robots. We're absolute robots. Yeah. But in that, I'm lucky that I sort of put bits together. For me, it's Wednesday. You guys record Wednesday. I record Wednesday as well, unless I'm doing your show and then I do it Thursday. But yeah, it's like Wednesday.
Damn right you do, George.
Priorities, baby. Wednesday, sort of early afternoon to early evening. So it's about a 6-hour.
Yeah.
4 to 6 hours. You know, if I'm doing a pre-written bit, like if Mortimer's going to call,
Yeah.
or if there's a sketch. I haven't done sketches in a while because those are incredibly time consuming.
Yeah.
So if I have 3 characters having a conversation for 2 minutes, that could take 3 hours to record and write and do that kind of stuff. So it varies, but it's usually about 6 hours. It's what do they say? 4 times the amount of so if it's an hour show, it's like 4 hours. So I'd say 4 to 6 hours.
The last Mortimer one.
Oh, is that
where-
for podcasting? Is that what people say?
I think it's something like that. Yeah.
This is so
Oh,
self-indulgent.
I've never heard that
audio, it's
that
4 to 1.
ratio.
Ratio.
In TV, do you know that it's 1 hour to 1 minute?
Yeah.
Yes, I could see that easily. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's way harder.
This is
Way
so
harder.
self-indulgent, but the
Yeah.
last Mortimer one you did where you saw any ices, Bloodberry.
Oh.
Bloodberry. Oh my God,
Bloodberry.
George.
Yeah.
Totaled me on that.
Okay.
I was to it like 10 times.
Good.
I love them. Love them. Okay, Kara, there was a question for you. They want to know if there'll ever be a crossover between your podcast and our podcast.
Well, first of all,
Isn't that
I'm
every show?
on Skeptics
I
Guide.
know, right?
You
It's
are the
not.
crossover.
You are-
Yeah.
It is a crossover.
And second of all, I have interviewed every one of you on my show, except I haven't had George on.
Yeah, there you go.
Whoa.
And look at what came out.
It's okay.
No, you have to do Talk Nerdy.
Yeah,
It would be
do
so
Talk
much
Nerdy.
fun.
Anytime, let me know. Let's do it.
Yeah, because my show, of course, is a 1-hour interview show, so it doesn't format-wise. It's very different from the Skeptics Guide. That's why I love doing both, and I never get bored or frustrated doing both, because I can do my 1-hour interview with somebody who's in the science community, somebody who's written a new book, and really dig deep in that way. It's very unscripted. It's like minimally edited. But then I can come to SGU and do, science or fiction and do what's the word and listen to Who's That Noisy and do the science topic for the week. And I think it's really fun to shake things up in that way.
Sure.
But yes, there's already crossover. Look up old episodes of Talk Nerdy. I've interviewed all the rogues. And George is next.
Yay.
Evan, are you going to do riddles again?
The puzzles.
Riddles?
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about
I
maybe
like these
bringing the
riddles.
puzzles.
Yeah, your puzzles were great.
Yeah, you know what happened was
Wow, I
that
remember
we morphed the puzzle segment into the Who's That Noisy
Yeah.
segment. The Who's That Noisy became the puzzle.
Do you remember when that
unto
happened?
itself. You
anybody
mean the
remember?
catalyst for it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I do.
There was one episode where we were playing bird sounds, and I played for you the sound of the ivory build woodpecker.
Woodpecker, yeah.
Which is amazing, amazing sound. And it was so fun, the whole segment, like you guys were like, oh my God, what is that? You had no idea. I'm like, we should do a whole segment based upon this.
And then Autumn, your daughter, used to say,
no. Julia. Julia used to say, who's that noisy instead of what's that noise?
That's right.
And then, because Evan and his wife, spent a lot of time with our kids when they were young, and Evan and I kept saying, "Who's that noisy?" to each other. Ever since then, it just became a part of
our talk,
part of our vernacular.
speech.
And so when we were talking about this segment, we just started calling it "Who's that noisy?" And at some point, we said, all right, that's it. The name is
That's a great segment.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Steve, have you lost interest in your VR setup yet, or are you still into it?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, have you lost a lot of weight? Well, yes, I have. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah.
No, I have not lost interest in my VR set. I am playing right now, my favorite VR game is VR Minecraft. It's just pretty awesome. Because you're in you could build your castle or whatever, and you're inside. You can walk through it. It's just awesome. Yeah. I'm not losing interest at all. It's a lot of fun. George, just tonight, we gave George his first VR experience.
And I videotaped it.
Yep, and George did the plank experience, right, where you go up in an elevator to the top of a skyscraper, and you walk out on a plank above 40 floors.
So the door opens up, and it's open air. And there's a plank in front of you, and you're on the 40th or 60th floor.
Yeah.
And that's like a pirate plank. And now when I did it, I took the headset off. Nope, I can't do that.
That was awesome.
Bob was semi-frozen in the beginning, and then you were able to walk out.
I was able to walk out on the plank, but to actually step off it took an act of will. And I've jumped out of a plane. So this goes to show you how effective the telepresence is.
George, tell us in your own words
Not the
what
plank.
your
I haven't done the
experience
plank, no.
Well, the doors opened up, and I was astounded at how smooth everything was. Because you're in, just being in the elevator was enough. Like that would have been fine for me, for just that you're in this virtual elevator, and as you look, there is no lag at all. Because I did a VR headset like 10 years ago, and it was cool, but boy, just single line
Latency,
things and whatever. And this, there's just no lag. It's totally smooth, totally seamless. And so the door opens up. And there's the plank, and so I thought, all right, and I just walked right out.
Yeah.
I figured, like, boom, didn't hesitate, walked right out. And then Steve says, okay, just step to your left, like, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to step off the plank. And now I'm in a room, and everyone's in there, everyone's watching, but you don't know that they're there. You forget very quickly, like, what's happening in
You are in the world.
Space. You're in the world.
Yeah, you can't see them.
And it really, it was incredibly difficult to sort of take that step. And then I kind of just shuffled my foot off and then fell off. And as soon as I fell, I was like, oh, okay, that's the sensation. I didn't hunch over, I didn't crap my pants, I didn't do anything like that. But then I was handed this sort of, you get a rocket in one hand, which you can fly. So you launch this thing and a stream comes out, and then you fly around the city, and it's amazing. I mean, it's
excellent.
just amazing. But I did it for like 5 minutes, not even. I put out a couple fires, because these fires that are burning, whatever.
So good.
But then as soon as I took the set off, I did feel a little nauseated. I feel
Really?
Yeah, I felt a little like, oh, okay. A little seasick.
The smooth movement induces vertigo.
I mean, it was incredibly immersive, and wow, I could see how you could.
It works.
It
works.
With Ready Player One coming out, whatever, a couple of weeks, once that tech gets to that level, I mean,
we're done.
We're done. I think you could lose
Goodbye, everyone.
generations of
VR.
humans in this VR where nothing is or everything is real, or nothing is real, depending how you look at it.
It's gonna change the landscape of humanity without a doubt.
Socially.
Guys, we're 10 people away from hitting 1,000.
Are we that close?
No way.
Yeah, we are. And I just wanted to say to those watching and listening, if you've listened to the show, if you've been a listener for years and you've gotten something out of the show and you believe in what we do, and you think that we have, you believe in the work that we do enough where you'd like to see us continue and you'd like to see us grow, then please become a patron. This is the way that you can help us do the work that we do.
Maybe you've donated in the past too. Maybe you've given in the
minutes.
past. Maybe you are already giving. You can continue doing that. And again, I think people ask me. I had this talk in Edmonton last week. I was very lucky.
Right.
The McCune University asked me to come give a talk about skepticism, and it came up, and we had a Q&A. And one of the questions was, "What are you guys like?" what's it like to work with you guys? And
With us?
And you threw us under the bus, right?
Yeah, I said, just divas, absolutely.
Beyond high maintenance.
The rider that they give you, and then all the non-disclosures.
The green
of the sun,
M&Ms.
and it's like, and then like the fact that you wouldn't, like, how many massages can someone give someone? It's like, how many? No. So what I told the audience was, I said, well, number one, what you hear on the show is who these guys are. Like, it's slightly modified because it's edited and there's no mouth clicks. But in terms of like personalities and in terms of like the how you know these guys, and if you were to sit at dinner with these 5 people, like what you would experience would be a podcast. And that's what I love about these guys and this show in particular, is that what you're experiencing is who they are, and the passion is real, and the excitement is real, and the desire to make a positive impact is genuine and real. And so when Bob is excited about nanotechnology or some nanobot that can perform whatever crazy thing it can perform, it is completely genuine, and he's going to talk to you about that whether he's being recorded or not.
Whether you want to hear me or
whether
not.
you want to hear it or not. Yeah. I said the coolest thing ever is, like, if you have to be in a car ride, if you have a 6-hour car ride, ask Steve, like, how does the brain perceive color? And then 6 hours later, you're there, and Steve has just been talking for 6 hours. And it's like this cool, and that's actually happened. I mean, where we've had these long car rides. And that's what you're investing in when you give a couple bucks a month towards these guys, in having a bunch of really awesome human beings be able to do not just what they love, but be able to do the thing that makes a difference in the world. I mean, how many downloads?
We're approaching 100 million.
100 million downloads, okay? So even if 1% of 1% has influenced people and made them not buy that woo product or not go to that allopathic school to study, snail therapy or whatever, like you made a huge difference. And by throwing $5, $8, $10 a month, like, you will allow the next 10 years or the next 13 years to continue. So I know it's a lot to ask, but if there is anything you can be guaranteed to be worth the price, it's these guys.
Thank you, George.
Wow, thanks, man.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
See, I told you we should have him on the show.
Yeah, right? Because now we're only 6 patrons away.
Oh, boy.
That was a 4-patron rant.
And a 32 minutes until the end. I mean, it's 9:28 already.
Oh, who's going to be 1,000? Who's going to be the number 1,000, right?
All right.
To be 1,000.
This is the 50th anniversary of what?
Of
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Still my favorite movie. Just straight up favorite movie.
I don't know. How can that be your favorite movie?
It's my favorite movie.
But how? I mean, there's like.
You can't watch that many times.
Can I be one of the first people that, like, I get it. I understand why it's a landmark movie and all that, but can I be critical of it?
Go right ahead. What do you have to criticize about
so
You're bored.
it's very stretched. It's very.
All right.
I know what you're going to say. Let me just give it. I know.
Defensive posture.
I know that they're making Hal be more human than the humans. And
We just lost 2 patrons. I don't know what's going on. The number's going down. It's going
I have
down.
to say this. I have to say this.
Spot. Where's your butt?
Yeah.
But it gets a little hard. Like, you're in the weeds a little bit.
All right, listen. The last stretch with the lights and the thing could have been 1/3 or 1/4 of that length and got the job done. Absolutely, it's unnecessarily long. No question
But
about that.
what character has a big change in the movie? I'm not talking about the guy.
Big change. The whole movie is
space
about
baby,
change.
yeah.
Is about transcendence. This becoming the Star Child.
I was going to say, except the Star Child.
Okay, except all of the hominids.
The dawn of man and
transcended.
everything, even.
I know, but I'm looking more for the human connection. You know
But the
what I love.
whole point of the movie was that there's no human connection. They were isolated. They were disconnected. The guy's listening. He's on his bed, listening to a birthday greeting from his parents with 0 emotion, and they're giving him this stilted, cardboard happy birthday. You should feel a chill in your heart when you watch that scene. That's the whole freaking point. Is that the arc of human history from the bone to satellite, right? The whole
Yeah.
arc of human history. We're on a quest for what we think we need and we want,
Yeah.
and yet we manufacture the civilization which isolates us from everyone else, which puts us in a spinning ball in space where we can't even take a shit without a long list of instructions. And we're so cut off that a birthday greeting from our parents is sterile and totally devoid of what you're looking for. You should feel that way. That's the whole point.
So we become Vulcans, is what you're saying.
No, worse than that.
Not
Worse
even,
than
yeah,
both.
not even.
Yeah, so I get it, and I think that
It's awesome.
I think that the movie was it was written amazingly well and directed amazingly well, but it's hard to watch.
Jay,
Only
Steve.
that last little bit.
What?
Up,
Yes,
996.
Whoa,
Too late. Too late.
I only see 998.
998.
No, refresh,
one more.
refresh.
Refresh,
We've been
refresh.
refreshing. It doesn't happen until it's happening on our screen.
1,004.
All right, I buy the point.
Yes.
I just proved the point.
Oh, don't draw the wrong conclusion.
No,
from
this
that.
is my conclusion. I want the camera on me right now. I have just proved the point.
Middle camp.
People respond to conflict.
That's right.
It's the conflict that does it.
Fake movie
Look
reviews.
at me. It worked.
It was George's appeal. Just took a little time.
Thank
to
you,
filter
guys.
through
That's true.
the social media.
Wow.
Seriously.
Yay.
Thank you so much. We did have a goal tonight to hit 1,000.
Now just 4,000 more to go.
We still have another 30 minutes to go in the show, but we really appreciate it. I can't tell you how much of an honor it's been to be on this show, to meet people like George and dozens of other amazing people throughout the years. But we've made pretty much a lifetime commitment at this point to
we're
the
in.
show.
We're in till the end.
Whoa. When did that happen?
You weren't there, Bob, but we decided.
Somebody
upload your
faked my
brand.
Took some of your
signature
blood
again,
and
didn't
signed
they?
your name, so
right.
it's good.
Yeah, and I really want to thank our audience and our listeners. People that listen to the podcast, people that watch our videos, people on Facebook that read all of our news items that we put up every day.
Man.
We really do appreciate your patronage.
Yeah, I mean, so I know we've said this before, but the
Patreon.
When we started this. Actually, we started the whole skeptical
96.
movement, 96, 22 years ago, and then we started the podcast 13 years ago in 2005. It was always like, let's see what happens. We'll put out a newsletter. Maybe no one will read it, and whatever. We'll do this.
Then we were excited when 400 to 500 people were reading our newsletters every 4 times
For a
a
local
year.
skeptics group, that was darn good.
couple hundred people.
That was darn good for a local skeptics group.
But this is a lot of work. The thing that keeps us going is the interaction with the community, with our listeners.
Well, that's why we started the Patreon.
Yeah, and that is partly because we wanted to be able to, because they have applications that allow us more interaction, but it is the feedback that we get. It's the connection that we feel with. If we didn't feel like we were making an impact, I don't know that I would be able to get up at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning when I'd rather do anything else, than be sitting in front of a computer for 6 hours. But we do it because of the interaction that we get with our listeners, because we get that email that says, you guys changed my life, or you sent me on a different course, or you just helped me with this one thing I had a problem with, or whatever. And so we really do appreciate it. You guys are why the show is what it is and why it keeps going as long as it does. Really, we wouldn't be doing this, obviously. This is all about the listeners.
Yeah, I mean, the Discord server to me, when I first heard about it, Ian and I were talking about it, and Steve and I were trying to, just like you, George, like, what is it? We didn't know what it was. A month ago, I'm like, can someone please explain to me, wrap my head around this? And then I'm like, Ian finally gives me a demo, and it's like, it's a series of chat rooms. I'm like, chat rooms? Oh my God, like really?
It's 2002? Yeah.
But, I'm on there, and then all of a sudden, like we turn it on, and people start coming in. And, again, I'm talking to people all around the world, people in Alaska, people in Australia, and we're having fun conversations. And it's weird because, like, a conversation will last like 10 minutes, and I'm dipping in, I'm looking at, and then it changes. And then you just see the conversations change, and different people come in, and then they get swapped out. And then people are saying, hey, good night, and it's 2 PM. Like, well, where do you live?
Right.
Oh, I live in blah, blah, blah. And it's, it's bedtime now. It's just really cool.
Who's the farthest away who's tuning in right now? Is there someone either in the Discord or that can comment Who's the
Well,
who's the farthest from
Jafe is
Connecticut?
in. Where are
He's in
you, Jafe?
Australia.
You're
New
in
Zealand.
Tasmania, right?
Tasmania.
So he's
Okay.
almost in
Oh,
Antarctica.
Tasmania.
That's
Little
probably a
island.
winner. Can anyone beat Tasmania?
Anyone farther away from
Someone on the moon?
Connecticut than
Is someone
Tasmania?
That's
listening
almost
on
the
the moon?
opposite end of the Earth, right there.
Yeah.
That's just that is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that there's an individual in Tasmania
Yeah.
tuning in.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Discord now. Someone just said UK. Someone said, New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Okay, New Zealand.
Yeah,
All right.
It's tomorrow then.
That's right.
it's true.
So getting back to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
So,
So the thing is,
Well, the closing
I thought
thing,
we
though, the
closed
fact that
that
it's
out.
so long,
yeah.
that was incredibly. No one had seen something like
Yeah,
that final
at the
sequence.
time, that was supposed to. I mean, people went to see this fantastic, special effects
Right.
thing. So that's a bit. I think that's the only thing about the movie I feel is dated. I don't think that would fly in a modern movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it
But
was.
it
and
still
was,
looks damn cool.
It does. It looks cool.
When you
and
see it on a
holds
big
up.
screen, I mean, it's like because it's there's an analog quality
Yeah,
to
yeah.
it, which doesn't look like it's obviously computer generated
Right.
because it's not because it's just paint on a
Right.
glass
But I do
plate.
think that the modern audience.
It's too long.
It's hard. It's too long for
Right.
a modern audience.
Right.
That's the only thing I feel
Yeah.
is dated about the movie. But if you,
Well, it's a little. I mean,
the
you know.
special effects totally hold
No,
up.
they absolutely do.
totally hold up.
This was what I love about that movie is that this was one of the first like modern science fiction
Yeah.
movies. The one that really showed that this isn't just for kids,
Yeah.
But
was a
But the
serious,
thing is, though, as you see, like
film.
I remember watching. I went to see E.T. when it came out in '81.
Yeah.
Amazing movie. It was a worldwide sensation. Then I went and brought my daughter in like 2004, 5, and I'm sitting there like, what happened?
Hey, that movie's still amazing.
Fine. But my
emotions
point
of it
is,
are amazing.
the point is though that we've become.
Pace is glacial.
Right, the pace. Yeah,
it's so
editing
good.
techniques have changed so much over the years that some movies, not all of them, but some movies, the editing is such that even though you loved it
Yeah.
decades ago, now it's just
So-
like, oh my God, something happened,
Yeah.
please.
But there are certain kinds of movies where I know this is a slow movie and you
It
have to
happens-
settle in and be prepared for a slow movie,
Right,
and you have
right.
to just luxuriate in it. Like
From
I
the
felt,
opening Savannah sequences.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 7 minutes of just Savannah shots.
I know.
But that puts you in that mindset.
yes.
And you're like, okay, here's what we're
But
gonna do.
these shots are so beautiful,
Beautiful,
though,
absolutely.
and there's so
Yeah.
much being conveyed there.
Yeah.
There's so much. Your mind is just you're doing all the work, you
Right.
know. But
Right.
it is incredible. And then some of the images are fantastic. Like you have the just iconic.
Mm.
I mean, it's a simple thing, but this alignment between the obelisk. Go to the computer screen, guys.
Now you wouldn't really see that, by the way, in the sky.
I love it.
The sun
I
and the
love
moon
it.
that close.
And
It's so
directly, right?
creepy. It's
Wow,
so
so
weird,
creepy.
man.
How? Because the sun would be too bright. It would never.
Well, yeah.
It
Well,
would
you could
blot
see-
out the moon.
You can see the
at
moon
that
during
point.
the day.
But not to that proximity, that close. I don't.
Well, I know,
think
but at least it's lighting the guys. Show the.
so. I get the
computer screen.
idea.
It's fake hues.
There you go.
Fake hues.
It's fake, but
Hues, because
it's
it's news.
Nice. I got you.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Kubrick was conveying something with this image, and just
Absolutely.
thinking, what is it? What is it about what the? Because you see this several times in the movie, this kind
it's a
of
reoccurring
alignment. I think it's about transcendence. You're sort of transcending to the heavens.
Well, it's the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
It's birth. It's potentially
It's everything.
death.
It's like, that's why the light scene is going through. You're going through corridors most of the time. That's Kubrick's. The corridor sequence is in almost every one of his
Oh, yeah.
movies,
Right. Full Metal
and that's
Jacket.
the representation of the arc of human history.
right.
History. That's why I think he settled on that for so long. But there was even just from a science fiction aspect. I mean, the ship was incredible. No sound in space was
love that.
awesome.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
It was the mood was just so
You had never seen a
fantastic.
ship
Especially
like
when,
designed like
when
that,
Hal
too.
attacks him and cuts the. Oh.
George, what do you think of when you see that ship?
When I see the ship,
Yeah.
Q-tip.
I mean, open the pod bay doors, Hal. Is
Yeah, but what do you
know.
think? What do you think that you said the design of the ship? What do you think the design of the
like
ship
a
was meant to evoke?
Sperm.
It's a sperm.
Oh,
it is
okay. Oh,
absolutely
sorry.
100%
Yeah.
a sperm.
Yeah.
I know it sounds simple, but it is.
Right.
And
I guess.
look at the ship is literally giving birth to a baby ship,
Right.
right? You get the little pods.
Yeah. Seed of man and
Yeah.
all that kind of, yeah. And then
There were a lot of
space
birthdays,
seed.
a lot of birthdays in the movie. Right?
That's
a lot
right,
of
yeah, the girl
birthdays.
has a little birthday, that's
Little
right.
girl's having a
Yeah,
birthday.
the daughter.
Pool had a birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, Poole had a birthday.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about, and then the final huge
The
birth
right,
at
of
the
course,
end.
the
Yeah.
final birth. right.
The space baby.
The space baby, yeah.
Did you?
Just a fantastic. I watch it every year or two. I watch
Did you read
it
the book?
again.
Did you read the
Yeah.
sort of adaptation?
Yep, I read the
of
book.
It? Which is, and when I was a kid, my dad. This was on late at night once, 11 o'clock on Channel 5. Because when Star Wars came out, my dad liked Star Wars. He thought it was okay.
Yeah.
But I was only 5 or 4. But he told me, he said, that was good. When you're a little bit older, there's this movie called 2001,
Yeah.
which we'll watch. Because that's really what science and art, that's a better example. Because, the lasers are cool and the Jedi's
Wow.
cool. But like,
Impressive.
I was like, okay, so this was planted in my head of
Yeah.
like, this is the Grail.
Something.
And I think I was 12,
Yeah.
and Channel 5 out of New York would show these movies late on Saturday nights.
Yeah.
And he saw on the schedule 2001, and I was like, can I please stay up and watch? Because it was like, normally bedtime's 10 o'clock, 10
You saw it on
whatever.
TV?
So I saw it on TV.
We saw it in the theater.
Yeah, first time. So I was 12 years old. This is like 1984, 5. And I stayed up. And now, as a kid, I'm watching this, and I'm in the last 20 minutes of the film, I'm like barely staying awake. I'm tripping anyway, because
Right.
it's just like
That's
so
what it-
weird
that's
and
what it
freaky.
is.
And,
Awesome.
I'm just like, what is happening? I don't understand. This is so great. I'm allowed to watch it. I know. But like, you got to picture me just like, being allowed to be up late was enough. Like
Yeah.
that, I mean, it could have been a star field for 2 hours. I would have been excited. But then my dad sort of said, so what happened? And then like, what went on? Like, and we talked about, okay, like this obelisk sent out this signal because it knew that it was going to be at this point of human advancement.
Yeah.
And then there's this story, and there's this other story, and there's the bigger story. But the main story is not the big story. The big story is a different. And I thought, like, how, yeah, Star Wars isn't that great compared to this thing in terms of like layers and levels.
yeah.
Just had
And
a
then there's,
little
when he busts in through the airlock.
Yes.
And there's no sound. The explosion happens, and he flies straight, pulls, whatever the character's name is, flies straight at camera. And you're like, and I've watched that scene frame by frame. When I first got a DVD player, I watched that scene frame by frame, and I'm still not totally sure how they did it. Because it's just, you're like, how did they?
How they
There's
made that
no
movie is
CG. There's no. How did they?
unbelievable.
What? It's amazing. Totally holds
Yeah.
up. It's amazing.
Totally
Has
holds
way
up.
more impact than if there had been a.
Yeah. Right.
Because you're just like, and then he turns the air on, and that starts, and you're like, you're sitting there like, start breathing.
Cool,
Fantastic.
man.
Just it.
The whole
knocked me
interaction
out.
between Dave and Hal
Yeah.
is iconic. I mean, it's iconic, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
For a reason,
Yeah.
because it touched something.
Oh, the tension there is just, you can so
yeah.
feel it.
Have you seen the Alexa thing that you can now have? Hal be Alexa?
No.
Really?
Yeah, there's apparently,
No, the voice.
yeah, apparently there's an app I think that you can have.
that.
It's like an add-on. You can have Hal be your. I think that's how I saw a picture of it. So I don't know if it was just a mock-up or if this is an actual thing that you can get.
Courtney, can we do
someone
this,
might know.
please?
Maybe someone on the boards knows, but
Hal.
I understood that it was like you can have it be a Hal Alexa thing. Alexa.
Chris Brown says hi.
Did you guys
Chris.
prep any other items that we didn't get to?
Yeah, well, I wanted to quickly mention Nexus.
Yes, let's talk about Nexus.
So Nexus 2018, it's July 12th to the 15th. We've already locked in our speaker list, which is great. That's
George is on the steering committee.
Yep, George has been helping.
And Liz is behind the switcher behind the
Yeah,
Hey, Liz.
Yeah.
And
I get to
Brian
rest
Wecht and I are finishing up the workshop
Yeah.
right now,
Brian
which is
Wecht.
good. So please come to Nexus this year. It's going to be at FIT again. The fire happened last year, so this year
that's
everything's going to be okay.
Beautiful downtown
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Yeah, last year there was a
23rd.
minor fire, and we couldn't use any of the facility rooms that we normally do, and they had to find other places, and it was crazy, but we still had
It was still great.
This is the 10th
Yeah.
anniversary.
Yeah, this is the 10th
10.
year.
This is
Yeah.
10.
Leanne is the MC
Yep.
again.
Leanne, Lord, you did a great job last
wow.
year.
She did
Lord
such a
came
good job.
to Bethlehem and did some stand-up comedy. They have a stand-up comedy show that they do
Yeah.
every Tuesday at Bethlehem. So I went, and hot damn was she funny. She
she's funny.
did this whole Wakanda thing for like 10 minutes. That was so great. I walked up and kind of surprised her. She was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I live a mile away." So it was really cool to see
Yeah.
her, and she's all excited. I think that was the day after she was asked to MC again. So she's so excited, and very, very
I'm
cool.
happy to hear that.
Very, very cool.
I
Liz,
love
what
her
do you got?
tweet. She tweeted after.
If you want, you can tell who the keynote is.
Ooh.
You wanna
Okay.
know? It's official.
Oh, is it official?
It's official.
Go ahead.
You want to come out?
It's Jennifer Willette. I don't want to come out.
Yeah, we got her.
She's excellent. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Steve, are we doing the extravaganza this year? Yes or no?
I don't know.
I thought we were.
Are we? Is it on the schedule?
What?
As far as I know, you're not. The current plan is you're not.
No.
So if you want to,
Not
you
on the
gotta
agenda.
get on that.
Yeah, we haven't. It's not official. So.
Okay, all right, we'll find out.
We'll nail that down.
Stay tuned.
I haven't heard.
Gosh, those were fun. Oh, my gosh.
But we will be doing the extravaganza in England.
That's
at
right.
QED.
British
That's
extravaganza.
right.
We're going to QED this
Yes.
year. And we're allowed to say that, right?
I think so.
Whatever, too late. And George is coming with us. We're
Just
going to
invited
do the
ourselves.
extravaganza, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's in Manchester.
Manchester
George will be with us.
in
I can't-
October.
In October,
We
right,
can't
right
go
after the
anywhere
book comes
without
out.
you. We just need
I
you.
know.
Right?
The book comes out like the week before, right?
Yeah.
October 2.
2nd.
October 2 is the book
Yeah.
release.
Very
Wait, when is
exciting.
Manchester? When is QED?
Like
Like 11, 12, 13, something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yay, we'll celebrate my birthday in England.
Oh, cool.
Yay.
We'll raise a
And then
pint to you.
SciCon is the week after, so I'm going to go right from London to Vegas.
Yes. We're going to be hanging out.
So you're going to stick around in,
We're going to stick around.
in England.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go to Vegas and
Yeah.
do the Vegas thing.
Cool. Awesome.
And I love it. I mean, like, we get to do this. Like, how
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
When you guys started with your 400 people newsletter. Did you
Yeah,
think,
right.
like,
No kidding.
Oh, yeah,
Wasn't
we'll
even
go to New
400.
Zealand and we'll go to Australia and we'll go to Manchester and
No,
we'll go
never, never in 1,000
Nah.
years.
Right?
No.
No,
So
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
We are now at 1,027.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
Show
Thank
the
you.
board.
Yeah, we blew past.
Show the board. Look at that.
You really stepped up tonight, people.
Thank you, people.
You really stepped up.
There we go. Yeah, it was just a coincidence that we were approaching 1,000 for this show. That'll be our goal. That'll
Totally.
be just perfectly timed.
Yeah. And you were right, Steve.
Yeah.
You're always right.
I know. It's a burden some of us bear.
Can I pimp one little thing?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
I have, so I know people.
Oh, the
have been-
mixtape.
People have been so crazy generous in terms of joining up with Patreon. But I have a new fun little silly thing that I've put together. So those of us that were of the generation of cassettes remember what a mixtape was.
Yeah.
So I have my own little
Ultimate.
mixtape that I put together. And it's not a tape. What you get is you get a nice little thumb drive that comes
Oh, that's
inside.
great.
But you get the actual mixtape,
The jacket.
the jacket,
Nice.
and it comes in a
How many songs are on there?
set. There's 44
Wow.
songs are on it. It's almost 4 hours of stuff. It's a best of from my 6 albums, plus pretty much everything unreleased that I've done on the show. The entire Randy musical that I
Oh,
did.
that was the best.
12-minute
That was amazing.
Oh, that was
mini Randy
awesome,
musical.
dude.
That's on here as well. If you're interested, they're $35 for shipping and handling. Everything's included. It's paypal.me/geomixtape/35.
Awesome.
So you can do that. Or you can just go to geologicpodcast.com and check it out. I'm really happy with this. It's really fun. It's got this whole collection of tunes. If you've never listened to my stuff or know what it's about, or you have someone you want to introduce my stuff to, it's a great way to kind of start. Because like I said, it's got the best of. But it's got things like the Assumption song, the one that I premiered when we did the extravaganza 2 years ago with Bill Nye. You Don't Know What You Think You Know. That's
Yeah.
on here,
Yeah.
and Good Old Days, and all kinds of stuff like that.
What,
So,
do you remember the song that you wrote in Australia? You had like 10 minutes to write a song.
oh yeah, about the guy who came from Poland.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah,
Do you
he and
still
his
have that?
family. Yeah, I got a version of that somewhere. I have
That was
recorded
remarkable,
thing.
George.
That was fun.
George was given, I think, 15 minutes to write a song. He had to interview a guy
Yeah.
and then write a song about about the person.
Talk about improv.
Right.
And he comes back in the room and he plays the song, and I mean,
Blown away,
and
yeah.
Keep in mind, I know this guy. You know what I mean? Like,
But the guy was so cool. The story was because it had to be sort of a personalized thing. And
Yeah.
so this guy, he and his parents escaped from Poland. Like his father was a dentist or something.
Yeah.
And they went to some convention, and so they left everything behind and they escaped to Poland, from Poland to
Yeah.
to London, I think, and then
Yeah.
ended up somehow in Australia. And it was like the coolest story. And I'm like, okay. And I just started.
I remember
writing
you
all
saying at
this
the
stuff
time,
down.
I could work with that.
Yeah, as opposed to I like turtles. Yeah, it wasn't that. Yeah. So it was cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, that song isn't on here, but there's a bunch of other fun stuff. So and then you get this cool little retro cassette mixtapey thing. So
see that.
it's fun to do. It's fun to do. And what's nice is with it's a 1 gig little thumb drive. So yeah, it's like I said, it's 44 songs. It's 4 hours of music, almost 4 hours of music.
One
So
gig,
Very
gets
cool.
Lots of gigs.
it's really fun. So
Thank you.
Gig.
yeah.
950.
cool.
Nice.
You guys want to talk a little bit about robotic arms?
Yes, I would.
You do?
Okay.
George, you want me to regale you for 6 hours about some
Steve,
minutia and biology?
The actuator. and
What's the deal with robotic arms, Steve?
So let me tell you, George, I know it's a very interesting topic. So this is one of those technological things where this is happening. But it's like with Bob with the physics. Bob's always saying, does this break the laws of physics? If no, we could eventually do this. We're just working out the details.
Better
right?
when.
So with robotic arms, we're talking about not arms for robots, but prosthetic robotic arms for people. Like you have your arm amputated and you replace it with a. So we're really talking about robotic cyborgs, robotic parts for people. And the question is there any reason neurologically why this can't work? 20 years ago, like when I started this whole skeptical science communication thing, we didn't know what the answer to that was. We didn't know. We had our suspicions, but I would have given a very different answer myself 20 years ago if asked the question.
The question being, can
your brain control a
your
robotic
brain
arm?
manipulate some mechanical device
Yeah.
purely by brain
The answer
power?
is yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, now we know that the answer is yes, but there's so many things that we didn't know about it. So, for example, the concern was that while you have this arm attached to you, it wouldn't feel like it belongs to you, and your brain wouldn't be able to incorporate it into your overall person. You know. But we now know that. So first of all, the neurology is more complicated, but it's simpler at the same time, and that. There's different components that go into you feeling as if you own and control your arm. There's circuits in the brain, right? So there's a circuit in the brain that makes you feel like you occupy your body, right? That you own it, it's part of you, it belongs to you. There's another circuit in the brain that makes you feel like you control your arm, right? That you are under control, you have agency over it. And those circuits are based largely on sensory feedback, right? And that sensory feedback includes seeing like if I want to move my arm and I see my arm move the way I want it to move, that helps me feel like I own it, or that I occupy.
It's like those experiments where you have the fake arm and the real arm.
So ownership, just feeling that it's part of you, is mainly a function of visual and sensory feedback being synchronized. Control is a little bit more complicated. Feeling like as if you control your limb is a function of more proprioception, which is
What are you talking about?
whole.
well, there's a syndrome called alien hand syndrome where people feel like they don't control their arm. They think that it's acting on its own. They will start doing things. They're like, "What's this thing? Why is it doing that? I'm not controlling it."
As hell.
Yeah. And it will do that to just start emptying out their pockets on. So why is that? Why am I doing?
So what's the arm want?
That's a good question. So anyway,
Jay.
Say that.
Jay.
You're supposed to get out.
anyway.
I know, right?
Stop it.
So that's a matter of feeling that the arm is moving when you want it to move. That's a synchronization between not vision and sensation, but the premotor cortex that says, I want to raise my arm, and then like haptic feedback, right? So I feel my muscles moving and I feel my arm moving in the same way that I intended it to move. Therefore, okay, I control it. It's doing what I want it to do, I therefore control it. If you disrupt that circuit, you don't feel like even when you do, you don't feel like you control your arm. That subjective sense of control is gone. So with a robotic arm, we need to reproduce those sensory circuits, right? So the first step was just getting people to physically control the limb with their brain. That happens. You can do that. You somehow wire the brain to the limb either through nerves or through electrodes or implants, and you can learn to control a robotic arm. You could learn to move a cursor on a screen. You could learn to control a robotic arm. And the
Monkeys can do it.
Monkeys can do it. And here's the thing that we didn't know 20 years ago, that even an adult brain is plastic enough that you could learn how to control a limb that you didn't previously learn. You could learn your brain,
Train it.
You could train your brain to control a new thing, and using new pathways. And
Okay, but the real question though is, will they eventually feel?
yes, so the news item was one group working on this who developed it's an incremental advance where you add it to everything else. They added vibration. So when you move the arm, the robotic arm, it vibrates in such a way as to simulate the feedback of your muscles moving.
Wow, what a cool idea.
Yeah, and that was enough to create the sense that they control the arm.
That's all the brain.
Now they need the sensory information to feel like they own the arm, so they feel like it still doesn't feel like it's part of me. But another group did that. They had the sensation so that you could feel like when I grab the cup, I feel the cup, and now I feel like the arm is part of me.
Man.
Whoa.
So you need to close all these loops. So when you do that, so not only does it make you feel like you own and control the limb, it actually improves your ability to control the limb, which is probably why we have those circuits in the first place, right?
Hello.
Because what they realize is like when you go to grab a cup, what do? You don't really think about it consciously, but what you do is you actually prepare your hand. Right, you put your hand into the shape that it's going to be, and then you grab the cup, and then you close it until you get the appropriate feedback. And you could do that without looking because I could feel everything happening. And so, but people with a robotic limb, they have to look at their arm do everything because that's their only feedback.
Right.
Right.
Oh, of course. Okay.
So, but now with these types of sensory feedback, they don't have to look at their arm. And they are starting to get a sense of ownership and control. There's obviously a threshold phenomenon there, and the better. So all the pieces are in place. That's the key thing. Neurologically and technologically, all the pieces are in place. There is no reason why you cannot have a robotic arm that will be completely neurologically incorporated and natural. Now we are on the track of incremental improvements.
Yeah.
All the pieces are there, and now it's like the VR.
Bring it all
It
together.
works. It's seamless. You're there, and now it's just better resolution, better thing. Now it's just more and more incremental advances. We're there. It's happening.
So do we need a Patreon level now for RoboArm?
Well, that's Cyborg.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's included. All right. Good.
One problem is like it's the interface.
Yeah.
You know, when you have the arm doesn't really attach to your biology. You know, it's strapped on.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem.
But they can connect nerves to it, you know.
Yeah, but they have to come up with a way to get it so it.
Well, that's the incremental technological advance. They need to power it better, make it more exquisite control, better sensation. All the things now they're all there.
Add
all the
pop-out blades, you know.
So I had something weird
dildo,
happen. So I dislocated the fingers on these 4 fingers on this hand in a very, very slow mountain bike accident. And then I had to go to therapy. You know, it was a big deal. It was a lot of work to get my hand back all the way. But I remember one day I'm opening up the dishwasher and I take out a plastic cup and I grab it and I'm like, oh, the cup melted because it felt bent. And I hold the cup up and it's perfectly round. And it occurred to me, my hand is not telling my brain the correct information. I have nerve damage from my accident.
Whoa.
And I had to hold a cup in my hand and look at it and tell myself it's round and kind of retrain.
Whoa, and it worked?
Which you can do.
Yeah.
So
Steve told me to do it, and I did.
There's something called abnormal innervation syndrome, which is like if you have nerve damage and the nerves have to regrow, they don't go back to exactly where they were. It makes the biggest difference in the face because it's so exquisite. Your control of your face is so minute that if the nerve goes here instead of here, it affects your expressiveness. And so when people have like Bell's palsy and then their nerves grow back and they get their strength back, they have to literally look in front of a mirror and like practice moving their face and retrain their brain to control their face through the new pathways, but they could do it. Your brain's plastic. It may not get back to where it was exactly before, but you can get there to the point where, oh, now I could smile without blinking, or whatever. You just can physically retrain your brain to do it.
I saw this TED talk about amputees dealing with phantom limb syndrome, where an arm gets cut off and it's in pain, it's clenched, even though it's not there in the mind of the person. They can feel it like being like a palsy kind of thing. And it's painful and it hurts, even though it's not existent.
Hell, man?
So they developed this technique where they set up a mirror, and so you look in the mirror and you use your other hand, and you relax that hand that you do have, but you're looking at the mirrored image, and your brain feels the ghost hand, the phantom hand unclench. And it's this instant solution to it.
God.
You know, yeah,
It's like
that's just
what
the
a
way the
genius
brain.
thing.
Because we use the visual feedback to know
The
what's
visual
happening.
feedback, yeah. Let alone the one where you have the fake hand. You have
Yeah,
a
so
fake
here's
hand
the
and a real
setup.
hand.
If you put the camera on me,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see. You can see. So your one hand's above the table, the other hand's below the table, but then you have a mannequin hand where your other hand would be, and then there's a blanket here, so you can't see that this is not your real hand.
But then
Somebody
real hand-
touches
yeah,
your
yeah,
real
yeah.
hand and the mannequin hand in the same place at the same time. So your brain sees the mannequin hand being touched and you feel your real hand being touched. And that synchronization makes you feel like that's your real hand.
Yeah.
But then they take a hammer and they smash the thing, and you completely feel the pain
terrible.
of the
Or
mannequin.
my favorite thing, they do acupuncture on the mannequin hand. It works just as well. Seriously.
Oh yeah, baby.
But now you could do it virtually as well. You could do it virtually as well because you can. You have a camera behind you, and then you're wearing VR goggles, so you're seeing your own behind, your own backside, and then you. If somebody touches you on the shoulder, you see the virtual you being touched while you feel it. Now suddenly you're occupying the virtual you.
So you've occupied.
So what that means is that happens like half the time. That little thing is enough, right? Like half the time for that you to switch your center of where you're located. That means we can physically occupy our virtual world avatars and feel like we're in them and control them and get the feedback. Wow. We can close that loop too. Yeah. There's no reason why we can't feel as if we exist in the virtual world.
You're only inside yourself because you're in essence deciding you're inside yourself.
Well, so here's the thing. And when I wrote about this, I said, because the authors say that it creates the illusion that you control the hand, right? The sensory feedback. But the thing is, your normal sense is an illusion. Right. The sense that you're in your body, that you control your body, it's all an illusion. It's the same thing. It's like you're using our experience of the real world is a hallucination. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's an internal event that's happening.
We are
an internal
our own
process.
virtual reality.
It's just related to the outside world, right? It's like we call it a hallucination when it's not related to the outside world, but the experience is the same. That's why they're real to them. Yeah. And so, yes, the notion that you're controlling that robotic arm is an illusion, just as much as your real sense that you're controlling your arm is an illusion. It's all an illusion. Right. Your whole existence is an illusion inside your brain.
Let alone, when you decide to do something, you've already decided before you've decided to do it.
Yeah.
The conscious mind decides a few milliseconds after when you want to grab the cup.
So your
free will thing.
Your subconscious mind makes the decision and then presents it to your conscious mind, and then which has the option of rejecting or accepting the decision.
Right.
But like 60% of the time, you can predict what people are going to do based upon stuff happening subconsciously up to 6 seconds before they actually make the conscious decision.
So
it's not you.
Therefore,
but it is.
It's not my fault when I go down to eat at 10 o'clock at night.
If you want to believe that.
Right, think about it. It's my subconscious mind that's tempting my conscious mind. It's not...
yeah. But you do have conscious control, so it is your...
Not at 10 o'clock at night.
You're saying, that part of your brain is impaired because that overriding executive function part of your brain that rejects the subconscious...
It's tired, right?
It's tired. It is tired. That's one theory is that our frontal lobes just get exhausted, and you're more susceptible to the subconscious lizard brain.
Where you bite the sandwich first, like you're not. You think you're choosing. Oh, I'm going to bite this corner first, but it's already decided for you.
Yep. Yeah, but it is you. It's
how
how
about my dog wakes me up at 3 a.m. Yet again, and I've been trying to lose a few pounds, so I've been eating strictly all previous day. And I'm going down the stairs, and as I'm going down the stairs at 3 in the morning to bring my dog out, I'm thinking, yep, I'm going to have those peanut M&Ms, and nothing's going to stop me because I'm going to eat them. The willpower's gone. It evaporates. It's like no willpower.
It's too much to ask.
Like you're going to do it.
I know. It's just like, yep, it's going to happen.
Yeah. So, Bob, something very similar. So I am super addicted to smart food.
Yes.
Right? Cheese, popcorn. It has to be smart food, though, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying really hard. I'm exercising a lot. I'm on an exercise regimen. My wife's on one. The other night we're watching Jessica Jones, the series.
Season's
all right, we're gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch a show. I'm just like excited. And about 15 minutes into it, my wife turns to me. She's like, Do you want some smart food? Now, up until that moment, I wasn't even thinking about snacking.
Yep.
I was doing so well. But she says that.
Yeah, you have to have it.
I was just like, boom! I was like back eating it and halfway done, like in moments. I was like, or it was. I had no control over it.
That's how
I'll see a
hard your
commercial
brain took
of a
over
burger.
at that point.
You know, at 10 in the morning, I'll see a commercial of a beautiful burger, a picture of a perfectly cooked burger. And that night, I already, like, I'm doing salads tonight. I've got soup. I'm good. It's going to be a nope burger.
Yeah.
That's done.
There are certain foods, when I see other people eating them, like on TV or whatever, I really have a hanger. Like
what?
Apples. Like if I see somebody biting into a crisp apple, it's like, I want to do that. Yeah. And the other one is spaghetti and marinara.
Every mob movie.
Every mob movie. I want spaghetti.
And I'm like, I need pasta. I need lasagna. Come on.
And when they're eating Chinese food out of the boxes, it's like, I want to do that.
Yeah, totally. Totally, yeah.
Those are the ones.
All right, so.
So it's time. Do we want to do one last question? Is there one last question?
Yeah,
One good one. What's the best
Any
one?
last questions,
more.
guys?
The question.
The best question of the night.
Greatest
All right, let's do one last refresh. One last refresh.
Where are we?
Ba-da.
And the grand number, 1,031
Wow.
patrons.
Thank
ladies
you
and
so much,
gentlemen.
guys. That was awesome.
Wow.
Thank you, guys.
Good pulse.
Thank you very much.
Look, Cara Santa Maria is watching, it says.
I know her.
Oh.
So, and guys, keep paying attention about the book. Again, it comes out in October 2nd, but it's available for pre-sale. The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is the name of the book. Kira came up with the subtitle.
Yes.
That's right. Yes,
she did.
That was awesome.
She did.
George's
How
girlfriend.
to know what's real in the world.
Increasingly full of fake. How to know what's really real.
Really real.
Really real.
And let's not get too excited. He said Kira, George's girlfriend. She is a different person than Kara, who is on the screen.
Yes.
behind
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That's right.
Thank you.
Don't confuse Kira and Kara. No,
Yes.
Important point.
K-I-E-R-A versus C-A-R-A.
Right. The book is a great
Yeah.
primer of critical thinking and scientific skepticism. It's everything you need to know to be a good skeptic, and it's our personal journeys, as well. A lot of great material. We really worked hard on it. It's
A great gift.
I understand it makes a great gift.
You've got that relative that initiates those Thanksgiving conversations,
Yep.
and you want to go, yoink, give them
Yeah.
the thing. Hey, look at page 15, or
Yeah.
look at page 220.
Or
We tried to be thorough. We really tried to be really
Or if you
thorough.
know somebody who knows how to read,
Yeah,
that's
I understand. Readers really like this, but will like this book. So it's available for pre-order at Amazon. Just search for The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe.
There is another book named The Skeptic's
there's
Guide to
always
the
there's
Universe.
another book
Awesome.
named everything.
You got to see Steve's name
some
on
jerk
it.
grabbed
Yeah,
her.
or just search on my name. Yeah,
right.
right. And then when the cover's finalized, we'll make a big announcement about that. We'll let you know about that as well. We're really excited about it.
Oh yeah, it's epic.
Right. And I was actually talking to our agent about the next book. He's like, nothing's going to happen until they see how the first book sells. That's
Okay.
basically. We obviously can start writing it, but the bottom line is this will be make
Which
or
is
break.
that first week is key. I mean,
yeah,
the first couple of days.
First week is key.
Yeah.
Well, we hit it out of the
Which
park.
pre-sale will help make
Right.
happen.
Oh yeah.
Right. Absolutely. All right, George, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
George.
Congratulations.
Always a pleasure to have you. Kara, thanks for joining us over Skype.
Thanks, Kara.
Thank you, Kara. Have a great dinner.
Guys, thanks for joining me as always.
Actor.
Thank you guys for joining us for this special episode of the SGU.
Thanks,
and thank
to-
you for your patronage. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank our staff.
Yes. And guys, stand up. We have our tech staff, my daughter Julia, my wife Jocelyn, Liz Gaston, and Gaston, and Ian, who is our new web guru, who is doing
Ian.
all of our tech stuff.
Oh, yes.
Thank you guys for helping out running the show. There's always as many people behind the scenes as in front of the camera when we do these things. And until the regular show, until next time, this is your Skeptic's Guide to the Universe.
Banana.
Banana. Banana.